allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We got a full agenda this evening. Roll call, we're all here.
No, Toby isn't here.
Oh, Toby's not here. Oh, my goodness, where's Toby? Have we heard from Toby?
No.
I did not hear from Toby today.
I didn't either.
So maybe he's just running a little late.
That's possible.
Joanna, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to introduce you to Mr. John Hume from MRPC, who's going to make our presentation tonight.
Perfect. Hi, John, how are you?
Oh, very good.
You're on number 3, so let me just get through 2, and then we'll have you come right up. And here's Mr. Bakesa. Okay, so number 2, we have minutes approval, July 8th, 13.
Motion to approve the minutes of July 8th, 2013.
And do we have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. And those minutes were emailed to everybody for prior verification. All in favor of the minutes for July 8th, 2013, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect.
Please sign.
They're doing that now as we speak. Appointments now. John, come on up. John Hume is from the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. He's working with us to help us with our master planning. We got a grant, so that's what we're doing with John this evening. How are you?
Okay, thank you. I'm doing very well. Glad to be here. We're going to talk about some economic development issues this evening, and that's actually one of my favorite topics for the Montechusett region, trying to improve the economy. It's a big subject these days, job creation and all. I'm not quite sure how you'd like me to...
Just go right in.
Okay.
Yeah, just go in. Questions,
Okay.
we'll write them down as they come, and then at the end, we can go through all those.
Sure. What I've got my PowerPoint over there. My clicker is not working, so as I go through the slides, I can just go hit it
Or you could go
manually.
back there with the mic. The TV will go with you.
Okay.
If you want to go back there, you can. If you want to stand right there, up to you.
Okay.
Whatever works better for you.
Yeah, maybe I'll just stand here and then I'll just go back and
Perfect.
click a slide as I go through. Regardless, tonight I have 2 handouts that I drafted for you to follow along with. The first one, which is key, is like a PowerPoint presentation. It's the same one that's up on the screen right there. It's labeled the Lunenburg Master Plan Update, presentation for the town of Lunenburg right there. So if you can't see the screen all that well, you can follow along with your hard copy. The second document is labeled Lunenburg Master Plan Update Draft Assessment of the Current Economic Base. Now that's like a 16 or 17 pager right there. It's narrative. And I was going to be referring to this as we go through the PowerPoint, just because it has a lot of good stats in there. Goes into a lot more detail than just the highlights that I'm going to point out as we go through the PowerPoint. We have a lot of good charts and graphs and figures and everything. And I understand that Marion had actually emailed it to everybody on Thursday. It's nice if you could take a look at it before, but if you didn't do that, we'll cover things tonight too. So actually turning to page 2 of the PowerPoint, I'll go click the button. Like the PowerPoint says, the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission did sign a contract with the town of Lunenburg to assist with the updated economic development element of your master plan. One way that we were able to help keep the costs down significantly is by doing a project last year that we completed in December. And it was about priority preservation areas, which is about the environment, but it also dealt with priority development areas too. And I was actually able to carry a lot of the economic development information into the master plan, with a lot of updating too, because it's been 6 months and a lot of new census information has popped up, and the labor and unemployment information has changed too. So we changed that along the way, and I looked for some trends that might have happened over the last year or two since that report was done. That report was done through our district local technical assistance through no cost to the town. It's funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we worked with Marion Benson on that project. So I'm going to turn on to page 3 of the PowerPoint. And basically, what this talks about is the methodology that's used to draft up a master plan element that's going to be used for the economic development chapter. As you can see by the PowerPoint, step 1 is data collection and analysis. And that's what we're going to be going through tonight. A lot of interesting statistics, a little bit of analysis. So step 2 is goal setting. Because when you have a master plan element, every community, every local community, when they draft one, they have goals and objectives for each element. Like your economic development chapter needs goals and objectives. Your land use element needs goals and objectives too, just like open space and recreation. So then step 3 is really important because it's recommendations. And that's how you achieve your goals and objectives. And generally, for an economic development chapter, it can take anywhere between, usually 2 or 3 meetings with the planning board or the master plan committee to go through things thoroughly and get the input that we need. So the contract with Montechusett Regional Planning Commission goes through into October, and I think that we should be able to complete that element by then. So moving on to page 4 of the handout, we can actually start to dig into some of the data collection and analysis that's been done over the last 2 months or so. First, we started off with Lunenburg's labor force. That's unemployment stats from the Department of Labor. As indicated on table E1 of the report, the narrative report, if you go to page 3 of that, I have a lot more details and a nice chart that shows a lot of information and all the changes that have occurred over the last decade or so. But you can see that the unemployment rate increased from a low of 3.5% back in the year 2001. Then it went to 9.1% by the year 2009. Since 2009, the 2012 data indicates it's about 7.9%, and it looks like it's been decreasing, which is some good news, but then you have to consider that some people may have given up on the job search too, and I'll mention that in a minute or two also. The unemployment rate, it's comparable to Worcester County. Sometimes it's a little bit higher than Worcester County, sometimes a little bit lower. But one consistency, it's generally higher than that of the state. And that's true of many Montechusett region communities too that I've looked at, with a few exceptions. So with the town's population, if you look at the third bullet, growing by 7.29% during the last decade, you'd expect a corresponding increase in the town's labor force, but this didn't occur. So, like I was talking about before, this probably indicates that a lot of people just left the labor force and just stopped looking for work because they got discouraged or what have you throughout the economic recession that we've been in since 2007. So, in fact, one interesting thing which shows that the labor force has decreased over the years, you have fewer people in the labor force than you did 10 years ago, back in the year 2002, 2003. Moving on to measures of wealth. As you can see on page 4 of the report, the narrative report, that would be on table E2. Lunenburg has a higher per capita income, median family household income. You've got less poverty than the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as a whole, and you compare relatively well with your neighboring communities. When you draft up a master plan, or when I've done that in the past for other communities, I'm working on Templeton's right now, they've liked to look at how their neighbors are doing too, just so you can compare yourself a little bit, just to see where you stand. So that's what we did throughout this chapter too. Whenever possible, we took a look at Groton, one of the wealthier communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We looked at Lancaster, we looked at Shirley, and we looked at Townsend as well. And one other thing, the last bullet, right here, you can't see it too well, so if you looked on your PowerPoint handout, this is a little bit of good news. Last year, on that report that MRPC worked on with Marion, actually people were paying a little bit more for housing according to the stats. So about 36.8% of owner-occupied housing units pay more than 30% of income on housing. And this is a decrease from last year's rate of 39.5%. So it's a little bit of good news. In fact, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the percentage was 40.3%. So you're doing a little bit better than the rest of the Commonwealth in that category by a few percentage points. So then, moving on to the next PowerPoint page. This is interesting information, and that's why I included it. But the drawback is, before I started, is that it's 2000 census data, because they didn't collect this type of information in the 2000 census, unfortunately. I kind of wish that they had, because it pertains to a lot of the work that I do with economic development, but it still gives us like a general idea of where Lunenburg residents might be working. And you can see by the second bullet, you've got a little under 19% of Lunenburg residents actually worked right in town. A significant portion of residents worked in Fitchburg, a little over 17%, Leominster, a little over 14%, Worcester, a little under 6%, and just under 2% worked in Boston. I wasn't too surprised that a lot of people work in Fitchburg and Leominster, since the town borders those two communities, and they're more industrial and more commercial in those areas within the Montechusett region. Then if you take a look at your narrative, if you wanted to, you can look on page 6 of that, and we've got a table that's labeled E4. And the mean travel time to work for residents was 30.8 minutes. That's how far you have to travel for work. More than the Massachusetts average and the national average as well. Massachusetts average was about 27.5, and the national average was 25.4. So generally it takes Lunenburg residents a little longer to get to work, but this is fairly common throughout the Montechusett region, and especially in some of the more urban or rural located communities. Interestingly, this trend is reversing. I'm not surprised, but I thought it was interesting. The mean travel time was 31 minutes 3 years ago, so it did decrease a little bit. I looked at other communities too. It seems to be decreasing, and I think that's probably because of the tight economy, and you've also got higher energy costs too. So people are probably looking for work as close as they can to avoid travel. But it's just interesting to me that most communities throughout the region did experience a little bit of a drop from the travel time to work, and it had been increasing since the housing boom over the last decade, because people would like to come out and enjoy the quality of life out here in Lunenburg, because it's a beautiful place to live, and they'd make that sacrifice to drive a little bit further to work. So then switch the slide again.
John, I'm sorry to bother. Would you prefer to hold off on questions? I have a couple questions about that last section, but I can wait if you prefer to go through more first.
Oh, it's totally up to the board.
Go ahead.
So,
While we're on the topic,
Yeah,
so
so
we're not going backwards.
okay, thanks, Joanne. So first of all, yeah, this is, it's great to have this data, and I want to thank you for pulling it together for us. In terms of understanding, where the households in Lunenburg get their income from, and kind of some of the key economic patterns, I'm really interested in this workplace flows thing. And the fact that there are a couple of things. I mean, 2000 is a long time ago.
It really is.
I mean, demographically, I suspect there have been some fairly significant shifts. And I mean, just given what happened to the housing market in that time and other things, it's kind of like, it wouldn't surprise me if these numbers changed a lot, I guess. Yeah. And the other thing about it is there's a lot of dark matter in this chart. Like if you add the numbers going across, for Lunenburg, there's like 40% of workplace flows unaccounted for, is what it seems. I mean, if you add these numbers up, they add up to 60%. Is that because 40% just don't commute, or is that's like our non-working adults, or is that just that 40% go to places other than, I'm assuming that there's 40% go to places other than the 6 places listed here.
I think that we just hit the top ones, but let me double check those numbers, because it would be nice to have like an other category there, so it adds up to 100%. And it's let me get my report and take a look at it. But that is a good point too, indicating the data is 13 years old, and some communities choose not to have it in their economic development report too, in their chapter, just because things have changed quite a bit. So you may prefer to take that out if you think that things have really changed, so that that's not really valuable anymore.
Well, I guess I'd be curious. So this was obtained from the 2000 census, and did they stop measuring this information in subsequent census?
Yes. Yeah, they did. So
yeah, I guess, I mean, it's a really interesting thing to understand, I think. And I mean, I guess my initial, given that there's 40% not accounted for, and in our numbers here, I mean, there's some significant, even if we didn't nail it down to the city, there's like significant employment zones. Like, you could talk about the Devons, the 495 belt, the 128 belt, which would, I think, complement this. Really, that's kind of, are they inside 128? Are they 128 to 495? Or are they, somewhere like, 495 to here, like Devons or something like that? Or, I don't know if we can get that kind of data. But what's interesting is if you look at apparently, the census is gathering commute time now, it sounds like. And if you look at an average, and then there's New Hampshire too, I forgot about that, but there are probably some number of people work there. If the average is like 30 minutes, I mean, that, if you draw that circle, that's probably, that average is probably, only, Leominster, Fitchburg in hometown, I think a lot of the dark matter would be accounted for there, because it's going to rule, you can get anywhere, Leominster, Fitchburg, and Lunenburg in less than 30 minutes. Gardner, I don't know, maybe there's some places in Gardner that would take 30 minutes. Worcester, Boston are really the only two there, and they don't, and for a mean of 30 minutes, it just seems like we really don't have a clear picture of what the commute flows are based on the current data.
Yeah. I could do a little bit of research on that, because that would be interesting. I think that would definitely complement the report. And if there's existing data that I can utilize, I could insert it in here to paint a clearer picture.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot, John. That's great.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll do what we can. Absolutely.
Anything else?
Oh, no.
All right.
Okay. So, and we've got number and types of jobs in Lunenburg. If you go to page 7 of the narrative, on table E5, you can look for some data that suggests, that indicates from 2007 to 2011, the number of establishments and employment decreased, which didn't really surprise me. Now, the 2012 data should be coming out shortly, and it might already be out because I worked on this probably about a month ago or a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to keep an eye on that on the state's website, and as soon as it pops up, I'll update your figures here. But at least it appears as though total wages and average weekly wage ticked up a little bit during the economic recession. Even adjusting for inflation, I think it ticked up a little bit, not a lot. But Lunenburg has more establishments than a few comparable communities, and you can take a look at table E7 on page 8 of the narrative that talks about how it has more establishments than Lancaster, Shirley, and Townsend. And also, as you can see on table E6, page 8, the largest number of jobs by far in Lunenburg is retail trade. And you've got about 644 jobs in Lunenburg in retail trade. The two largest employers are Mackey Corp, and you've got Hannaford too, so they supply a lot of those jobs. You've also got a few other retail places too, Walmart too, that's something else that would provide significant employment. In-town job projections. Now this is something that Mass Department of Transportation comes out with. It's their traffic demand model. They use it to forecast it, but in-town job projections indicate that the population is growing faster than the number of in-town jobs, and it's supposed to continue right up into the future. It's just a projection that they've got, and it's in our regional transportation plan. So I thought it would be worth drafting up a paragraph about that too. Then on page 10 of the narrative, as I had indicated, we've got the largest employers. We did have that in the report that was completed in the winter, but I updated that. These are the latest largest employers in the state's website. And you can see, like I had indicated, Hannaford and Mackey Corp were the two largest right there. Unless there's questions, I can go to the next slide. Which brings us to education. And a lot of the education information I was able to update from the report, the District Local Technical Assistance Report completed in the winter. And if you look on page 11 of the narrative, if you wanted to, on table E9, you can see by the first bullet that I've got, state data contains higher numbers in the groups at both the upper and lower echelon of the educational attainment spectrum. And basically, what's meant by that is you have a lot of people with at least a high school diploma, which is really good. You have more than the state average. But then you have fewer people with a master's degree. So you have more right in the middle, so to speak. Differences include a higher percentage with an associate's degree in Lunenburg and a higher percentage of those with a graduate or professional degree in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that could be because of Mount Wachusett Community College. You've got a couple of campuses in the area. You've got Devens, you've got Leominster, Gardner. And one example is a fantastic nursing program that they have at Mount Wachusett Community College. My wife is going through it too. You don't need to have a bachelor's to go through the program and become an RN. So that could partially explain it. And you've got Montechusett Technical Vocational High School also. One interesting thing too, when you compare yourself to other communities, Groton is different. in a lot of categories, not just from Lunenburg, but it's different from Townsend, it's from Shirley, and others too. And they have a high number of people with a bachelor's and master's degree. So some of the differences in Groton. Then I'm going to turn the slide and talk about economic sector contribution to local tax base, which is a lot of interesting stats here to me. The first bullet of the PowerPoint indicates that homeowners accounted for almost 90% of the total tax base. Business and industry accounted for a little more than 7.56 ahead. The remainder was derived from personal property at 2.6%. And having less than 10% of the tax base consisting of commercial industrial taxes, like Lunenburg, this is an indication that the town is more of a bedroom community. It's kind of like something that us planners keep in mind. If your commercial and your industrial doesn't hit that 10% mark. So that could be somewhat of an accurate description, perhaps, for Lunenburg. And there was some good news on the second bullet. Now, this was true of other communities, too. I looked at your neighboring communities. I'm doing Templeton's master plan, too. I looked at Templeton. There seems to be a trend that's kind of reversed. Looking back at FY12 numbers that I had when I did the report with Marion last winter, there was an increase of 1.89% in percentage of total tax levy from commercial and industrial. This is also true for other communities, like I mentioned too. I think it's just that residential development outpaced economic development over the last couple of decades to such a degree, but this seems to be slowing down and reversing in some communities, at least for now, as not as many houses are being built, I would guess. Lunenburg's commercial sector raises more tax dollars than its neighbors. In terms of the percentage of total tax levy, though, Lunenburg raises a little less than Lancaster, and you can look at that on page 13 of your narrative report on table E12 for a little deeper data and analysis.
John, if I may just ask a question.
Oh, sure.
When it comes to the communities that you compared us against, are they similar to us in that they have a singular tax rate, or do they have different tax rates for commercial and industrial?
They all had a single tax
Singular
rate.
tax rate. So to me, what all this really means, the difference is that in the commercial or industrial dollars is just the mix. Would that be a fair assessment?
Well,
That we probably have more commercial properties than industrial,
yes.
so that's why this analysis looks a little bit different?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a fair assumption there. Because you do raise less tax dollars from your industrial sector. You can see that. And with the comparable communities, too, I believe that you raise less than the other communities. But then again, your commercial is higher because you have a lot of retail. So I know that in the report that we did in the winter, too, we did like a build-out analysis also to see how much commercial land you have, just like a ballpark estimate, by using our geographic information system. And we're going to take a closer look at commercial and industrial over the next month, too, so I can come back and report on that. But it looks like you've got some land that's buildable in commercial and industrial. So you do have that potential to raise more tax dollars from commercial and industrial in the future. And we'll take a closer look at your zoning too, to see if you can boost that up even a little bit more. Maybe some areas should be tweaked, or also we have the town applied for another study too, under district local technical assistance, that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later, right at the end of this presentation.
Now, what I'd like to clarify, if I may, Madam Chairman, is I don't know whether Damon and Matthew are aware that we have already done a delta. That's the one you're referring to, and that we have access to another study. Correct.
That is correct. You completed one district local technical assistance project last winter, and now you have a new district local technical assistance project right now that's ongoing. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. It's complementing this economic development chapter too. Thanks for the clarification on that, yeah. So, moving on to the next slide. I'll change the slide. We have brownfields. It's a very complicated topic. It's located on page 14 of your narrative.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you, John, just for a minute? I apologize. Before we get off of the economic, or the commercial and industrial tax base.
Yes.
So I'm looking at table E13.
Yep.
And it talks about the Lunenburg tax levy, and it has a tax rate as the second column there. That tax rate, is that per dollars per thousand, or
yes,
per thousand of assessed value?
That's correct.
Okay. And it's gone up quite a bit between 2009 and 2013, and that's a uniform rate for residential, commercial, and in industrial?
That's correct.
Okay, and I'd be kind of curious, you have some nice comparisons here, you know, in terms of the income we've generated from, you know, for the town from these properties compared with some neighboring towns of similar, you know, size. I guess when you start to get into the economic development delta, some of the things I'm curious about there is, you know, if we did want to try to significantly grow that commercial or industrial base, if you look at it maybe from the perspective of the firms that we might be trying to get to, you know, locate in whatever zoning we have for them, it seems like at that point comparing with like even non-comparable areas is appropriate, because those firms will look at, you know, they'll look at Leominster, they'll look at Fitchburg. And I mean, one thing I'll be really interested in learning in the DLTA is kind of like how we look from that lens, you know, from the lens of a firm coming in, like how does our, you know, $17 per thousand tax rate compare with, Fitchburg or Leominster, and how does our or how do our electricity rates or, you know, water costs or whatever they would be looking at, just so we can kind of understand, because if I think understanding those things will help us understand, you know, even if we, depending on what those numbers are, we could create all kinds of zoning and whatever, but not get the results we want if, you know, the realities are that, you know, there's seriously different costs for people to look at these. And I mean, if you look around us, it certainly seems like there's, you know, we're surrounded by these, you know, small cities with very large commercial and industrial bases relative to ours. So it's understanding the hows and whys of that, and even, I guess, even some other things. This is probably going to be part of your economic DLTA, but what other factors are looking at in terms of access to either workers or access to people to consume what, you know, these businesses are looking at to consume whatever they're offering, whether it's, you know, trip travel times or commute travel times or what have you. Really, yeah, I don't know if it's possible, you know, really being able to understand what's driving why Lunenburg is the way it is, and what we can really realistically expect to do if we wanted to move the needle one direction or the other. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I'd like to take a look at that just for my own interest too. That's a good point. Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Put it in there. So, As I indicated, brownfields can be it's complicated, basically. A lot of the info is contained in Department of Environmental Protection database. And I give everybody a web link to take a look at too, so that you can take a look at it and try and figure out the brownfield sites in your community and where you're at. But also one other thing that I wanted to mention too, there is hopefully going to be a brownfield site assessment program sometime soon, because the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission is going to apply for grant funds to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency this fall. I talked to our director the other day and he wanted to move forward with it for funds, grant funds to communities and businesses too, for that would be for environmental site assessments. In other words, businesses throughout the region and the communities throughout the region, like some communities are interested in their DPW site getting an assessment. Assessment is basically what's there. We don't know. We don't know, but we suspect we might have a brownfields there. And under that program, which we've received funds, $200,000 each year, every other year from EPA, starting back in 1998. We've done a lot of work with a lot of our communities who have taken advantage of this program. So the funds hopefully will be there if we're successful in writing a grant application that gets awarded next spring. But I can keep Marion informed about that too. We're also going to be applying for a revolving loan fund cleanup program too. We received one about 9 years ago or 10 years ago, and would apply for about $500,000, and businesses could apply for that program to borrow the up to $500,000 to help clean up their site. So it can be a good thing, nice for the community to be aware of. A lot of our communities aren't aware of the different programs that MRPC has, so it's good to keep in touch.
Well, I would like to, one of our members that did not come back on was Tom Bodkin, and he worked very hard on the L&M garage. You have it on page 14, under the L&M garage, and we did go take tanks out of there. But I think that's a great opportunity. It's in the center of our town. It's an eyesore that we really want to do something with. So if you could kind of work with us, I know there's grants out there. Mm-hmm. There's tax ways to do it. There's all different kinds of things, and that's something I, as chair of the planning board, really like to take over from Tom, is trying to do something with that and trying to see what grants are out there to be able to do that. Because it's right there in the center of town. It's been shut down for years. Mm-hmm. So to be able to put something there that helps the town is something I really want to work on this year.
Okay, that'd be great, because we do have like a brownfields committee set up too.
Okay.
And we're going to be meeting in September, and we bring in other communities that have a lot of expertise, and also engineering companies.
And we did take, if I'm correct, the tanks out. We worked with the DEP, with the fire department, and they did do that.
That's great.
So we've done some of the work already. So anything we could do grant-wise to really get that facility moving to be a vital part of the community would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
John, just out of curiosity, when you talk about brownfields, do the communities' prior dump sites and everything, do they not classify as brownfields, or are they under a different heading somewhere in the state?
Yeah, well, as it's indicated in the handout right here, it's just sites that have been reported. So there could be, and there probably are, numerous additional sites throughout the Montezuma region where spills haven't been reported. So it's just in the state's database, they just have the certain ones that have been reported.
Okay, so there has to have been some type of spill, so a dump site in and of itself would not classify. It would only classify if there had been some type of hazardous material spill? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, like a dump site, meaning like what would
Like a cap landfill. We used to have a landfill.
Cap landfill, yeah.
Right. We have two of them, so that's why I was wondering why they were excluded from the 21E sites. Because I would expect that they would fall under that guide.
Let me dig into that a little bit more and give a little bit more of an explanation.
Okay, that
Because
would be
it's
appreciated.
complicated, yeah. It's a good point, though. I'd like to find out myself. I'm not a brownfields expert.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
Nathan?
Yeah, real quick question. So just to make sure I understood the summary of the opportunities you mentioned were available, you mentioned there's grants or monies available for identifying brownfields, and then there's there's some loan programs for obtaining money to for people to obtain money to clean them up, whether it's the owners of the properties or are most of those targeted towards the owners or towards municipalities, or how do those loans typically, or whoever wants to access the money?
It's interesting because environmental site assessments, businesses, private sector can apply for it, and municipalities can apply for it. Under the revolving loan fund, I think just businesses can apply for it. The communities can't. For some reason, they're not eligible.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point.
Interesting. And just what do you think the advantages are of, like, let's say you didn't, what are the advantages of identifying a brownfield, I guess? Obviously, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, it's great that we know and people don't get exposed to unhealthy stuff, that I understand. But like, so for a business owner, and this may be a really dumb question, but is it something that if it's kind of like their opportunity to get out in front of it, because when they try to sell the land, someone's going to have them, you know.
Yeah, that's how it would be in the interest of the business owner, because generally, I'd highly recommend it too. When someone purchases a business property, they should have a site assessment done, at least a phase one, just to know what you're getting into, because once you purchase the property, now you're responsible for it.
Okay.
So a business owner would have difficulty perhaps transferring the property or selling the property to someone. So it would be in their interest there. And if it was suspected that the cleanup could be minimal and things could move along, it would be in the best interest of a business owner just to know what's there, I would think.
I get you. So sometimes they'd apply for it as much to get a clean bill of health as to find a problem.
I've seen both.
Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely, yep.
Thanks.
And a big part of the Brownfields program, what Environmental Protection Agency is really looking for, is reuse of the sites. Is it going to be reused? So they'd like to see properties with reuse potential be added onto the list for environmental site assessments and cleanups. They want to promote economic development. It's EPA, but they want to promote economic development in the environment at the same time. That's their priority.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay. Chapter 43D sites. Page 15 of the narrative actually deals with Chapter 43D, and Lunenburg adopted Chapter 43D back in the year 2009 and designated 100 Summer Street as a priority development site. And you can't adopt Chapter 43D unless you do have a priority development site. And that means that at this location, 100 Summer Street, all local land use permitting must take place within 180 days, whether it's rejecting the permit or accepting it, approving it. So one thing that we should consider as we dive deeper into this economic development chapter too, maybe the town's interested in additional sites too, because it can, the state will actually advertise those areas, priority development sites, for development and try and bring business onto them. But you just want to make sure that it's the right area too, where the town would prefer to have some sort of industrial commercial development. So it can be a handy tool. They used to give grant funds when you applied under this program, but they don't do that, unfortunately. I think they stopped in like 2008 or something. So But some communities did get funding, but it doesn't happen anymore.
John, if I may, is there any statistics out there for communities similar to us that have designated 43D sites in the rate of their development? Because I see that we've had a 43D site for a long time and it's been designated, and I believe it's been out on the state's website, but we haven't seen anything, so there hasn't been any impetus. So I'd be interested in knowing that communities that are similar like us that have designated those, what level of success have they had in getting those sites developed?
Yeah, and I can put a call into the state and find out. Last time I did that was probably about a year and a half ago, because another community was interested in the same issue that you brought up. The success rate wasn't there. I talked to the state representative and so an economic development agency in Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they were saying, well, the economy tanked right after Chapter 43D came into existence back in 2006. The next year, no one's building anymore, and no one has any money to develop, and they just weren't interested. But a year and a half ago, yeah, not too much success. Maybe over the last year, now that things seem to be turning a little bit, getting a little bit better, maybe something's happened, but I can look into that and make a few phone calls.
What would be nice, in my opinion, is those communities that are similar to us, that are having some rate of success in increasing their commercial and industrial base, kind of understanding what they've done or what attributes that they might have that have lent themselves to additional development that we may not have.
Okay, that's something I can look into. That'd complement things, sure. Did you have any communities in mind? Just
Well,
off the top of your head,
one
or-
I would be interested in Lancaster because they're similar. To me, they have some attributes that I don't think that we have. They have more viable access to major commuting routes like 190 and 290, and they have closer access to 495. So I'm wondering if they're seeing an increase in their commercial and industrial development, what's driving that for them? Versus what we've seen relative to our growth in those two arenas, and do we have barriers to entry? Right now I've got subjective information that leads me to believe that we do, but I don't have any quantitative data that would point to that. So I guess that's what I'm looking for some help in.
Okay. Good comment. Okay. Now, as far as the analysis and data collection goes, that's where we are right now, but I wanted to turn the slide. I wanted to talk about one more thing that we talked about a little bit, probably 10 or 15 minutes ago. It's something that complements the economic development chapter, and it was designed to complement it too. After discussion with Marion, she put together an application for district local technical assistance for this year. As I had indicated, you had it last year too to do a report. Now, this one is to look at the feasibility of a bylaw, and we're just in the initial stages right now. It comes at no cost to the community. It's funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we just wanted to take a look at the downtown area to see if a village district bylaw might make sense for downtown Lunenburg. The scope of work for this, which we're working on right now at the moment, includes a land use parcel inventory. So the first thing that you want to do is take a look at all the different land uses all around your center. So I did like a half-mile radius going out both ways throughout your town center, just to see what the land use is. What kind of businesses do you have now? We're also going to look at non-conforming lots. We'll take a look at your zoning. We have someone back at our office that's been working on it for over the last 2 weeks too. We suspect that there are probably non-conforming lots within this area, and maybe doing something about that and bringing them into conformity could be a good idea, but that's part of the study. We're also going to research and review model district bylaws. A couple have been done in the region that we'd take a look at. We'd take a look at Rutland, and also the town of Ashburnham put one together about 5 years ago. So we'd look at those models. We already have started doing that, actually. And another thing that would be of benefit to the community in regards to a study like this would be to do like a site walk, get all the interested parties, everybody who's interested in the downtown. And MRPC could, me and another planner who actually specializes in zoning, I know about zoning, but it's not my specialty, we could come in and we could give like a presentation about what a village district bylaw is all about. And then maybe we could all take a walk around the town or a drive and see some of the local businesses and the residential and just the general makeup of the town. And maybe at the end of that, discuss what a village district bylaw might look for the community. And we are possibly targeting maybe October on like a Saturday morning or something like that, where we could get everybody together and MRPC could work with Marion and get the word out to do something like that. So that study is required by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be completed by December. And the final product, it might lead to this, is a village district bylaw that you'd like to bring to town meeting, potentially, if it works for you.
That would be great. That would be fantastic.
While we're kind of talking a little bit about the village district bylaw, a thing that's, I guess, kind of on my mind to a certain degree as we're doing this, as we're looking to build a new high school or what have you, when it comes to reuse of municipal buildings. I don't know if you have anything out there for communities that are similar to us, that are going through the same thing that we're going through, building new high schools, and what they have done with those old schools. What have they been able to convert them to? You know, have they been tear downs? Have they been able to convert them to something successfully that's commercially sustainable? Have they been able to convert it to professional office space that would be of interest to people? So as we get an idea, so maybe we can steal shamelessly for other communities that have been successful in converting those older buildings into functional uses for the community that increases the tax base. So
yeah, that'd be a nice component into the study. Marion did brief me a little bit about that, and it's an interesting topic, and certainly does relate to the village district bylaw in the downtown, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be a good component.
Excuse me, Damon is secretary of this new reuse committee, so he can keep us informed on it.
Great.
Yeah. I haven't been to a meeting yet, but we've only had one. But
I can tell you what happened.
okay.
Okay.
Joanna, there's one thing, John, you haven't mentioned, is what you recommend and has been recommended previously many times, is when we start getting into this work that we should do a town-wide survey. And as Toby said, shamelessly stole by going through communities to see what they've done. And I did present to you, and you reviewed it and presented to the board the citizen survey. So you want to make any comment on that? You know?
Well, yeah, absolutely. When you're working on a master plan, you really do need to do a community survey. All the master plans that I've looked at over the years have had that citizen input, particularly because not all residents go to the meetings, master plan meetings. They'll watch it on TV, but this gives them an opportunity to comment and provide citizen input into the document itself. So we put together a nice one for the town of Templeton last year, and we had a really good high turnout rate for it. I think it was like 25%. And I know that you did one for your open space and recreation plan too, and I believe you had a very good response rate
Yes,
with
we
that
did.
too. So that would lead me to believe that it's better to do a survey like this early on in the master plans process. You could do it. You should do it now if you can. I know it's a lot of work, and you have to tabulate the surveys and everything, but it's really worth it. Then you can make a presentation, or MRPC could help you make a presentation on the survey results. But I did take a look at Marion's survey. I thought it was well put together. I think I just had one comment about maybe adding something transportation related into the survey, because when you have a survey, you want to touch upon all the different elements in a master plan, like land use, economic development.
But I
open
was
space.
going to say we would add the labor, my recommendation was the labor force as well, which would pinpoint the New Hampshire, what Nathan was kind of talking about.
Sure,
We could pinpoint that as well as,
that's a good point, yeah.
If Madam Chairman and the board, as they look at this and they see these things that they could add to it, if they would send them in, I would put them in the form that we have. And then I'd have John take a look
well,
at it.
we would just add, so far, if you want to write it down, we would add a bracket for, like you have general, other, the categories. You would do an education like John had on his slide, and you would do a workforce and just list, where do you work, what is your travel time, how many miles, however you want to capture that, if you want to capture it by miles or by time, that.
And then a couple on transportation,
Couple on employment, where do you work, what town do you work in? So,
and anybody else can just email me individually and put it in.
Sounds good.
are we on the survey now, or are we still with John? Because I have stuff on the survey too, so I don't know.
Well, John's well aware of the survey, so,
But do you have on the agenda an action item for when we're going to talk about the survey, or are we doing
right here,
that now?
townwide survey, on the, right under our regular agenda. After, it's with John, a presentation, right below it, it says townwide survey, so that can be discussed.
Okay. Because I would, the survey's lengthy, which kind of scares people at the beginning that we're sending. Not that I'm saying cut pages out because we want to get all this information, but I think we're going to have it on the website, and you're going to have it at the library, the Ritter, Town Hall, Senior Center, and on our website. So a couple things, I would say if we could check with Kerry to see when it's ready, that we could do one robocall that tells people from the planning department that there is a survey, we're trying to get, collect 2013 census. Please take the time to download it, as well as get the thing that I'm always stuck on at the fire department, the sign, and put that in the center of town, the 2000 Lunenburg surveys available, please download it, just as two communication vehicles to get people to fill out the survey. Because I would never drive to the Ritter Building to pick up a survey.
But it's on the website.
Right.
You could pick it up that way, couldn't you?
Yeah, yes, that's what I just said. If you do a universal phone call that says it's on the website, I think 90% of your people will download it, fill it out, and mail it back to you.
Okay.
If we're using the website, I wonder if there's an opportunity to.
Fill it out on the website and have it go right back to,
Right. I mean, there's these things like SurveyMonkey where you can get a link, and it would save us all kinds of
Exactly.
time. Tabulation. It's more convenient because they don't have to mail it too.
right, they can fill out the survey right online and bring it back to, and I think 90% of the people will do that. We just need to educate them that they have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and if Marion, if you were looking for help with that, maybe the IT manager could give you a hand with that.
The IT person said he'd come and help with anything that,
Oh, beautiful.
because that's the policy.
Good.
And so after,
Oh, yeah, no one's saying they want to do it. Yep, it would be the IT guy. But they can, like Nathan said, they set the survey up and they do the survey right online.
oh, meaning Survey Monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into Survey
Yeah, perfect.
Monkey with him.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
perfect. Okay, that's all I had on the surveys, that we just have to get a great communication vehicle out that it's available and request that people do it. Okay, anything else, John?
That's all I had. I'll be working with Marion over the next month, and maybe I could be placed on the agenda in the end of August or early September or something, and I'd have more info to report.
And when we have more time, we are very aggressive on trying to redo our master plan, especially the center. And that comes into, as Damon's working on the ad hoc committee with all the town buildings, but even the walkthrough of doing a village district bylaw to help with our town center, because we really, in our master plan, want to, because I think that's part of why Groton is so successful, is because they have that nice town center with a nice restaurant and all those different things that create that environment. So looking at our center and trying to start to create that as well.
That's good.
So, thank you. Any other questions? Matthew, you all set? Any questions for John?
I'm good, thank you.
Toby?
No, I'm all set. Oh, just one comment. As far as the survey goes, I think the piece that we can't forget is although you can have it on the website, you can download it. There's a lot of elderly in the community that don't have computers, don't download things, so we need to find some way to reach them and touch them as well.
And we're going to have it at the senior center.
Maybe we could have a session with them.
You would have saved me a lot of words if you had told me that earlier.
I did, you weren't listening. But yeah, that would be good, that maybe you could do with Doreen set up a half-hour session with the senior citizen, book a half hour to kind of walk them through. That would be great. I could help you with that.
Okay.
Damon, any questions for John?
Not in particular right now.
Nathan?
Not at the moment. That's thank you for obviously thanks for all the work to pull these really valuable themes and supporting statistics together, and so that was really helpful. Looking forward to the future work we're doing together. Just a thought on the town center. If for our new members and for John.
If you want to mail him what you had already started working on.
What we as a team, we as a group would come up with,
Absolutely, that would be
I can get that out to him.
Yeah, or just forward it to Marion, and she could disperse it to John and Damon and Matthew, whatever you want to do. That'd be perfect, thank you.
Okay, I'll do that.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you, Nathan. Okay,
Yeah. Well, thank you for the input tonight. That's why I'm here. That's what I'm looking for, and we had some great comments. It was good.
and,
Thank you,
and
John.
I'm going to close out does anybody have anything else on the survey? Because we can close that action item out as well.
Okay.
Sure.
No, I don't think I have anything.
Perfect. So
Thanks.
those two actions are done.
Thank you,
All
John.
right, John, thank you. I will see you Wednesday.
Okay, thanks.
We have our MRPC Wednesday.
That's, is it Wednesday or Tuesday? Yeah, I think it,
Are they Tuesday night?
remember.
Is MJC?
Yeah.
Maybe it is Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
So I'll see you tomorrow night.
okay.
Perfect. Thank God I was going Wednesday. Okay.
I think, John, if you just turn that off, we'll take care of it tomorrow.
And Marion, that survey does look good. You did a great job with that, thank you. That looks good. Okay. Committee reports, MJTC, Matthew.
Yes. There was a very low attendance. There were only 3 towns represented. At first, there was a fourth showed up, and I guess they said there wasn't quorum with only 3, so then when the fourth one showed up, there was a quorum. We're not having a meeting next month. There wasn't a lot of new stuff. They issued an updated outage plan. I discussed about the track closures on the weekends. Basically the cover page is the very exact same. They've updated the schedule to have color. Again, just emphasis on the 2014 and 2015 are only conceptual at this time. My experience with construction projects is they tend to go over.
Okay.
I'm going to pass this stuff down for review and distribution this time.
Okay.
I didn't do that last time.
Not
Like I said, not a lot new. They did discuss what we had previously discussed about the potential solutions of the problem of informing people that use the line. The biggest problem was that they didn't start talking to us about it until 2 weeks before it actually was going in effect. Another thing was a Mass DOT representative was there to give us a speech on the UPWP, which is another thing, a Unified Planning Work Program. Doesn't mean a lot to me. But one thing that I did bring up at that meeting was the second item on their responses was ensure data collection and analysis reflects the needs of members of Title VI Environmental Justice and limited English proficiency communities. They're expending state money on reproducing all their reports, well, not necessarily all of them, but in multiple languages. I suggested that they didn't do that because they're having enough time, not a hard enough time producing the information for the majority of the people in a timely manner. So that was my input there, and I wanted to make the board aware of it. And all of this stuff is for distribution.
Okay, thank you.
Again, there will be no meeting next month.
Okay.
If you want to pass that down.
Sure, pass that with these two.
Thank you, Matthew. MRPC, the meeting's tomorrow night, so I will have a report next week on that. Nathan, the school building committee.
Has not met since our last meeting, is meeting on Wednesday, so
Okay.
I'll have something next time.
Perfect, thank you. And Damon, the building reuse committee. Nobody emailed me where the meeting was or the time, so I did not go.
Oh, okay.
Can I give a brief
Yeah,
report
Marion
that was given
knows.
to me? That it was an organizational meeting, and that I really enjoying this. They went down through the officers, and there's a spot for a secretary, and Damon was not in attendance, and he was voted in as secretary.
Apparently I volunteered even though I wasn't there.
Nice work.
And Pat Slattery is the vice chairman, and Mr. Toll, the new selectman, is the chairman of the committee. And they just, I understand from Mr. Slattery called, he really enjoyed you being appointed secretary. And he said it was really just sort of a round-robin discussion on what some of the things they'd be looking at.
Do you know when the next meeting is?
No, I didn't get that far, but I'll call
Okay.
if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, and then we have Marion on the capital plan committee.
I have just one comment on building reuse, and this is, or I can save it for members' issues.
go ahead.
Because this is just something that's been rattling around my head.
Go ahead, that's what we're here.
So building reuse, one thing that comes up a lot of time when we look at the feasibility of renovating these buildings.
Yep.
Renovation costs tend to be high for a lot of these buildings, and it seems like maybe I haven't been paying close enough attention that asbestos removal is usually way up there, is a big factor in the whatever the renovation cost.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, we'd been, I don't remember whether it was MRPC or MJT or which committee, but they talked to us about this prisoner work program, and the towns used the program, I believe, like to paint the. Now, I'm not really familiar with the technical aspects of asbestos removal. I'm sure there's all kinds of, some precautions and whatnot, but I'm wondering, and maybe the costs are related to disposal, but I guess the thing I'm interested in looking into is, if there's an opportunity to leverage that program for the purpose of asbestos removal, and would that present a significant enough cost advantage? Like, let's say we decided, and I don't think this is what they're going to decide, but let's say the Passios, they wanted to have it reused, but to reuse it had to be renovated. Maybe there'd be an opportunity to gut it, or like this old primary school, right, over here on School Street.
Yeah.
Would that be a more viable project if, instead of presenting it as is to a developer, if rather than demolishing it, we were able to get that
You're
stuff?
saying remediate the asbestos using prisoners? Or,
If
I think you need a qualified contractor for that. It's not something the prisoners can
Well, that's
do.
what I was
Okay.
gonna.
So you need
I was-
qualified-
that's
Yeah,
what-
and even if you demolish the building, you still need to remediate the asbestos.
asbestos, I got you.
And that's what I was gonna, because I was lucky enough, my neighbor's a captain at MCI Shirley, so I worked with Kerry and Jack Roddickens to get a work crew here in Lunenburg. Because like in Concord, they have a work crew of prisoners, there's 12 of them that every day go to the town of Concord,
Yep.
and it's 12 men, free labor. You
Wow.
just serve them lunch, okay. So I tried to get that in Lunenburg, we had it for a couple of days, and the issue is like even this building needs to be painted.
Yep.
So it's why can't the prisoners, but right now there's lead paint, so the prisoners can't because that's a whole
okay.
technical team that has to come in and do that, just like asbestos, it's a technical team, hazmat, that's gonna come in
Gotcha.
and do that, so the prisoners can't do that type of work.
Okay.
So
okay.
if it's that they're gonna just paint this, scrape it and paint it, that's fine.
Yep.
But if there's stuff that hazmat or other DEP involvement is required, then they can't do that.
They can't do that kind of work. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for that
You're welcome,
update.
but like coming here and cleaning the buildings every Friday, I see Jacob's Landscaping mowing the Ritter Building and those lawns that we pay for, where that's stuff the prisoners could do at no expense to the community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great, great work program. So, and I've always been a big advocate of it. Anyway, all right, next one, Marion, capital plan.
Well, we are finished with our summer work, and I thought I asked to have the cover letter put into your action file thing. And what we have done is sort of revamped, brought it into more clarification. The packet will go out to the department heads in September or the end of August, and then we have a whole calendar of when they were going to come back and when they'd be reviewed and whatnot. And so therefore, the meetings are always open.
And you're all set to go as of September?
Yep.
Perfect. Wonderful. Old business, planning board goals. Now, this week, she was going to disperse them, we were going to take them home, read them, and talk about them in August, is that correct? Because we thought we'd have a full night this evening?
That's correct.
Was that my understanding?
Yep.
This is what went out to you. This is the completed copies.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you, Marion. So everybody just take them home, read that, play with it. Any suggestions, thoughts, feedback, bring it back to the August 12th meeting, and then that's when we'll vote and say, these are our goals. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Perfect. Planning
ship that one back
Director's report, new business, Stone Farm Estates. Oh, thank you, Nathan.
Sorry about that.
That's an extra copy of that. And your minutes are right here.
Getting
Yep, let's put this back.
reconvolvulated here.
Yep, there's your minutes. So
Thank you.
those can go back.
Okay, you all have a copy of
Yes, that was an
now.
extra of that, of the goals.
We are on,
We are on Stone Farm Estates Engineer Review.
okay, you got that in your packet. That was reviewed, that's Jesse's, and I haven't heard any more from them because they thought they could do it with less work than it's reviewed, and they understand that, so they're kind of just holding still and will get back to us.
Okay. Highfield Village on Mass Ave.
That's a very interesting thing because we did the report or the extension until the day after this meeting. And we notified Mr. Oldfield about that. And we got a letter back and said that he was on vacation. Today, we got a letter back from him, and I don't like reading letters to you, as you know, but I think I have to on this one, because there's no reason.
Go ahead, just read it.
Okay. This office is in receipt of your extension until July 23rd, 2013, which time a status report would be given to the planning board at the regular scheduled planning meeting. However, I am currently on vacation until July 27th and would respectfully request an extension to your next meeting on August 5th, 2013, in order to give a detailed status. As you are aware, MEPA submission was completed. However, the Secretary of Environmental Affairs has asked for additional information for the greenhouse gas report, which was submitted as part of the draft Environmental Impact State Report, the DEIR. And therefore, the supplement DEIR was recently submitted, and the final EIR will be subsequently submitted after receiving comments from the Secretary of Environmental Affairs. I'm looking forward to seeing the board and giving a progress report on August 5th. Our biggest problem right here, people, is we don't meet on August 5th. Our next meeting
Is the 12th. Right.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that, he keeps saying the 5th, it would be August 12th.
Yes.
I'm okay with extending it to August 12th. I don't want to speak for the other board, so I'll take feedback from the other board members, because I don't want to just say no and deny it without having a face-to-face conversation with Mr. Osfield.
May I say that doesn't surprise me. I've seen this before, where they'll ask for information, and where he is specified specifically, I'm sure that's what he did get. It isn't a...
Oh, yeah, no, yep. And he's on vacation.
Yes.
So it's not that he's saying, no, I don't want to come.
No. Do I need
He's away on vacation, and he's committing to come. Matthew, how do you feel about,
I'm fine with that. The Highfield, they're the ones that have gotten like
extension over
15
extension? Yes.
extensions, right?
Yep.
The first 7 of them, 1 month in a row consecutively.
And you were sent a review of...
I know, I
dates.
reviewed that. No,
Toby? Oh, I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. Thank you.
Toby?
Yeah, I'm good.
What's one more time?
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah, did we do it for the day after the meeting
Yes,
this time?
23rd.
Okay, so let's do the same thing
Okay.
here. Yep, cool.
All right. Okay, so if you could just let him know that it's the 12th, not the 5th,
Okay,
that we're meeting August 12th, and put him on the agenda for 6:30. He could be up first.
I do have one question though.
Go ahead,
So this, is this stuff that he's talking about MIPA and he's talking about a greenhouse gas assessment?
report, yeah.
Is that, I mean, I am not the most experienced planning board member, but I don't is this typical like with any project
Part
with
of
a sewer
people,
plan
yeah,
now?
it can be very difficult.
Okay, gotcha. So,
But is the MIPA with the whole sewer, or is that a whole separate thing?
Well, it really isn't with sewer.
Okay.
MIPA is more than sewer, it's environmental.
okay, but like, did we get a MIPA from like, for example, O'Brien, like in his submittal? Like, that was,
I believe we did, I'll have to look it up, but I've seen many MIPAs over the years. Okay?
Okay.
MIPA is a very viable organization.
gotcha.
No, I don't think he's questioning the organization of MIPA. What Nathan's, I think, questioning, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, is that when we've done all these other development plan reviews, MIPA has never been an issue that they've sat and addressed MIPA.
Well, sometimes...
For me.
Yeah, that I noticed anyways. I mean, maybe the
Exactly. I've
reviewing
not-
engineer just said it's all
MIPA,
good.
The first I've heard of MIPA is with Highfield Village. I've not heard of it with any other developer, any other Stone Farm, O'Brien. I've not heard of this MIPA.
Okay. A MIPA in the past used to be very, very particular. But developers have learned to submit to MIPA when they are required to, in a way that MIPA says, okay, so you don't kind of get a lot of stuff from MIPA.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't. This
Yeah.
is the first I've ever.
Okay.
Okay. So are you all set now on Highfield Village?
Yeah.
We're
Yes,
gonna
I am.
extend them to the 15th? I'm sorry, the 12th.
The
The
12th.
13th, yep.
Yes, we're going to
13th.
extend it to the 13th,
Okay.
and we'll see them on the 12th.
Okay?
Do we need to vote on that extension?
I would suggest you do.
Okay. All in favor?
Motion to extend. Second, second on the motion to extend?
Thank you, Matthew. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Thank you. New England Farms, they're building, the foundation is in.
And the foundation has been inspected by our zoning officer.
Corner of
building
Pioneer
official.
Park, so everybody knows where we are. That is at the corner of Pioneer Park across from Padula.
Yeah, I put the address, Leo,
Yep.
Lemonster Shirley Road.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you've driven by, the foundation's in, it's up and we're going.
Wow.
Do you have anything to,
No,
okay.
no. Mike will let us know
yeah.
when he does the next.
Emerald Place?
Emerald Place, we had invited, or Toby brought this up on Lease to Own, and I contacted them, and they are out of town, and so they couldn't make this meeting, but they will try to make the next meeting. I'm going to set up a date for them for that,
Okay.
okay? And I want them to be more specific, because that it is open, that their plan, you know, what are they going to do next? How are they going to handle it? I'm asking for that much detail from them. And They still have, from our inspector, they need to do some inside road work, And then there was a discussion that was brought up at the Board of Selectmen's meeting about sidewalks, and we're looking into that, and I'm going to ask them, a sidewalk is supposed to connect to another sidewalk. We need to go back and make sure that it wasn't on the plan, number one. And secondly, does this board feel that that should be a slight modification, or it doesn't even need a modification, but an adjustment? And I want to discuss what the plan is. There is a so-called grass sidewalk. That's the way it is described. Toby, I think you remember that.
Along Prospect Street.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So that is where people can walk, but it isn't signed, so I would suggest that it be signed so that it's clear to people that they can walk along that way.
Because I saw that at the selectmen's meeting, and I was confused that they were looking for a sidewalk to go through the Rotary. It's kind of, and because I was thinking if we would have sidewalks, we would have.
Crosswalk, not sidewalk.
I think you're right, Mrs. Bertrand. I'm sorry, I
Can you
said
come
that
to the mic, Paula?
incorrectly.
Thank you.
I'm confused.
Paula Bertram, 312 Townsend Harbor Road. What came up at the meeting was that there's concern about people trying to cross to the waterfront, and especially near the Rotary. So the question came up about putting in a crosswalk. And what we were looking for was feedback from the planning board as well as from the DPW. The question was raised as to whether or not a crosswalk has to go from sidewalk to sidewalk and what the legal requirements are for the installation of a crosswalk. But the concern is that people crossing from Emerald Place and from other areas of town to get to the waterfront, it's a dangerous place to cross. So that's the concern.
Right. And I could see, and that's what I was saying, I could see a crosswalk going from Emerald Place to the beachfront.
Right.
I could see a sidewalk going from Prospect Street, Emerald Place, to the Pizza Parlor, the liquor store. I could see a sidewalk going from Emerald Place to CVS if they want to go pick up their prescriptions, and because there's a big development there that people would be zipping across the street to CVS to pick things up, not drive their vehicle. But then I was, are they looking for a crosswalk to go Prospect Street, and what's the side street on the other side by the golf course?
Pond Street.
Pond
I think
Street,
that's
like,
Pond
are they
Street.
looking for
Or
a
is it
crosswalk to go from
Turn
the
around.
end of the waterfront all the way over to the miniature golf, that would now cross Prospect Street, Pond Street, to get you to the miniature golf?
I think that's a question that has to be flushed out, and I think that's what we really need to look at, is where does it make sense to put them, and where is the pedestrian flow, and where is the safest place to put them. But obviously, people are coming up from both, Electric Ave and crossing to the mini golf, and there's a lot of traffic happening in that area, and I think that's what we need to look at, is what is the traffic flow, and what, from a safety perspective, makes sense.
And for me, I need to know what residents are trying to get into a crosswalk and don't
Right.
have one.
Right.
Is it the people up on Pond Street that we're trying to care for? Is it the people on Prospect? Is it both? What residents are saying they want the crosswalk, so we can make sure we're not creating crosswalks that they didn't even want them, and we didn't meet the need of the people requesting the crosswalk.
Right, I think this is something that Mr. Alonso had brought up, and I
Yes.
certainly can look to get more feedback from him, and I also think we need to get feedback from...
Because that's my thing, if it's the people of Pond that want to walk down and walk the waterfront, then
Right.
we've got to make sure that there's some type of crosswalk from Pond, miniature golf, all the way over, or is it the people on Prospect Street? So that's where I just want to make sure we cover both of those needs, if that's the need.
Right.
I'm going to start communication with that.
Perfect.
Okay?
Okay, thank you,
I
Mary.
have some input on that.
Yes, please.
The American Disabilities Act that requires accessibility. You cannot have a handicap ramp that goes to nowhere. You have to have a receiving ramp. So if they currently do have a ramp onto the road, there's a requirement for a ramp to be on the opposite side. Whether or not it goes to anywhere, it's one of those things. In my career, I've designed a number of receiving ramps that don't go anywhere, but it's required by the Disabilities Act.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
look into that.
Toby, did you have something?
I'm just picturing that entire area as far as it comes to crosswalks, because I think we need to take in consideration crosswalks for that entire area, because there needs to be that ability to cross those streets. But my greatest fear is that if, I believe it's Pond Street, crossing Pond Street towards the driving range, all you do is you just dead end into his parking lot. So, you know, there's no safe retreat there, so if we're gonna look at putting crosswalks, we look at some other landing areas that need to be developed as well, and where those belong, so.
Thank you. Damon? Nathan?
No, it should be
Okay.
interesting to see, I guess. I mean, there is a pretty, thing to keep in mind is that we have a fairly robust proposal for pedestrian and bicycle traffic on Summer Street, which is a natural sort of, there's already a lot of, I don't know, you know, Whalum already has a lot of pedestrian traffic. It's fairly lively street. There's the basketball courts there that,
McNally.
there's CVS there, and you do see pedestrian and bike, a lot of bike traffic and pedestrian traffic on Whalum. A lot of it, you know, coming to play basketball, going to CVS, that kind of thing. But yeah, it'd be interesting to look at and see to what, you know, what does it make sense to connect to Summer Street, and especially with this emerging development right on Whalum, with the emerging commercial potentially right across from Emerald. Yeah, it should be interesting. Yeah.
And that's the thing, we gotta make sure that when we do the commercial,
Excuse me.
when we're doing the commercial up on Sean Patrick on the other side, that again, that would be part of, that there's crosswalks, so the people are going from Emerald Place over there, that there are crosswalks there as well.
Right, if I...
comment I was going to make is, we can't go out on our public ways and say, and ask these people to put crosswalks, they have to relate to that project. So we need to really look from that project where the danger is.
You just comment. I mean, I don't know that to what extent we can. I mean, the Board of Selectmen knows better than I do. I mean, unfortunately, I think we told them they could do this, you know, grass sidewalks. I don't know that they have any more obligation. I mean, is it great if we can get some, if they're willing to or whatever, but it may be more something that has to happen with either we do the stuff that's existing and we have future development do the other places. Just one other thing too is, interestingly, as you go down that street, where do you connect to? You connect to Leominster and their pedestrian system, which is pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I would say, is that anything for Emerald Place, like the Pizza Palace, CVS from Emerald, I would have no problem talking to Emerald and saying, we've identified with these up and going, that we gotta add these crosswalks. Going from Pond to connect to Lake Whalum, well, that might be our DPW that has to create that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, our DPW would have, because now we've built this new thing that will attract this residential area, but you really can't say to a builder a half mile down, well, they want to come, so make it, they would probably work with us because they've been wonderful, but that would really be a DPW thing, Pond, but anywhere in Emerald to get those pedestrian traffic, I would think Emerald would be more than happy to.
Cool.
Just not to be remiss here, I believe that in our bylaw, we have the opportunity to ask for sidewalks with subdevelopments, with subdivisions and what. So not to be remiss and not to miss an opportunity here, perhaps we should be sending something to the ZBA as well for the Lorden development going on Whalum Road. Needless to say, with the density going with that development, there'll probably be more walkers coming from there, and there should be some ability for them to safely cross Whalum Road to get access to the sidewalk to be able to walk to CVS or to the lake or what have you. So I think we need to have a little bit more foresight than just thinking about Emerald Place. But those areas where we have high density of residential and commercial development, we really need to look at the requirement for sidewalks in that area and
I agree.
crossways.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And not to beat a dead horse, but actually, yeah, that's one of the streets where I notice a lot of bikers, not like cyclists, like people with the helmets and the, not like people who are like training or whatever, although that would be great if they were there too, but really just people using bikes for transportation. And so I don't know whether it's bike lane or whatever, but that with Lorden, that might be something worth checking out as well.
Well, because I think, as you said, the basketball hoops in McNally Field, all the kids in that area, when they get out of school, they get on their bikes, they ride down there, meet their friends, get a game of b-ball going.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. So you've got that, perfect.
Yeah.
Next, we're on to Tri-Town.
Tri-Town, the weekly update, there is really not a weekly update at this point, except that I have applied to the state I have done the yearly report, and that's taken care of. I contacted my contact for the $3,000 per unit, and that he's received and is in the process, and feels that that will come through when the budget is approved. And
And how many more units came in, Marion?
33.
33 times 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did check with Carrie today to, when did she expect that budget? And she said probably the end of August, so probably by early fall, we will be seeing that money.
And what about the schooling? Did you
The
give
school
anything?
thing, well, we don't have time for the whole discussion. I'm working with Harold Stride.
Yeah.
Because, and he is about ready to tear his hair. He said he's never seen anything quite as complicated as this, but he is working on it. I have the school count and the family count from the organization, but the school count from the school, all of that has been turned in. So now we're just waiting to see, and he's working with the particular person that we were put in contact with.
Okay.
But all of those figures have to come out of the assessor's office, and it's not easy for them to do.
Okay.
And it's very labor intensive.
Okay.
But he is being him, and he is going forth, not smiling, but going forth.
Okay.
Okay?
And the fence, do we have any?
The latest thing I know about the fence, and I have the question in to Carrie, is the Board of Selectmen did discuss it, and I understand you talked with her afterwards.
I did.
Okay.
Carrie and I had a conversation, because I think what happened is when we approved the plan with the fence at the end of the development, where most developments have a fence with the playground and the whole thing. Then it was brought in front of us that, did we give them an easement for town property because it was on town property? We said no. It went to the Board of Selectmen, and instead of the Board of Selectmen going to town meeting with an easement, they did I want to say it correctly, what is it, the terminology? It's not an easement. We did not give them an easement. We gave them permission to pass.
A right to pass and repass?
Right. But we call it, there's a specific terminology, executive something.
Yes.
Is what the Board of Selectmen's calling it. But anyway, so the Board of Selectmen gave them that. Well, the developer, in building their plan, built the fence to that line, not the property line. So it really is a Board of Selectmen issue where they want the fence. And last week, they were, at the Selectmen's meeting, they really weren't worried about a fence being wherever. They had no issue, and they could have added the fence to the executive, there's something they call it.
I know, and
It's not coming to my head either.
It's
But
mine
that,
either.
they have no problem with the fence wherever it is. So, and really,
They asked the proper questions too. Was it a problem? No, it wasn't a problem. So on and so forth. So I think their cumulative response is a valid one.
dialogue, please.
So just a question. So unlike the easement, this right to pass, is this kind of like giving the Board of Selectmen the right to sort of revoke that? Unlike an easement, is it easier to revoke the right to pass so that they can, I don't know, if they change their mind and said, oh, this is totally getting in the way of some town purpose, they could.
Because that's what Mr. DeBettencourt is bringing up. If the town wants to use that land for its own devices at some point, are we still,
Exactly.
is that still our right to use that land?
Exactly. And I have my own personal opinion on that, but that's really, Steve now needs to go to the Board of Selectmen, because we figured out that, no, we didn't give him permission to put the fence on that.
And it was not in that document.
Right, it wasn't, we never gave them, we gave them permission to put the fence on the end of the property. We didn't realize that it was town property and they needed an easement. So when the town voted and gave them the right of way, we didn't say, okay, bring the fence back. So the developer just put the fence where he originally had it on the plan. So I think if it's town land, the fence should stop at their land, and then our land should be specified. That's my personal belief, that the town land should be identified, it's theirs, it's not fenced in, kids aren't playing on it, and someone got hurt and, broke their limb, and now the town is responsible for that because it was town property. I just don't think it makes sense to give them that, to keep that fence with the town land.
If I may add to that, Madam Chairman, the developer is willing to do anything
Yes,
that
he
we
is.
want.
And I
Yeah.
know that, and I know that. So I just feel where the developer doesn't feel it's an issue, just bring it to his land. We're still giving him the right of way. The fire truck's still gonna go behind there and be able to put out the fire. But I just think to give that development, that town land for playing, biking, RVs, you're looking for a situation.
Okay, I guess I just need some clarity if you can help me here.
I'll try.
Okay. The reason that that easement was wanted back there, and I thought it was, in part, was really driven by the fire department for access to those
Yes.
buildings.
Yes, it was.
So I guess my question then becomes, if the developer moves the fence to his property line, although the ladder truck can get there, but the firefighters getting to the back of the property and stuff, have we not negated what we were attempting to do, giving them access to the building by having a fence in their way to adequately fight the fire? So I guess, before we go too far moving a fence, I'd like to make sure there's a lot of dialogue in that arena.
And I agree with you on that, Toby, and the only reason why I didn't think it would be an issue, because I think Mr. Castleton would have said, well, we can't, the firefighters wouldn't be able to. So I was assuming in his, we'd be happy to move the fence. He had a plan for the firefighters, whether there's a gate, lock, whatnot, with the lock walk, that I don't, but I'm assuming he had that plan when he said he'd be happy to move the fence.
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
think Mr. Bacase's point is well taken, and I think it's something that I can investigate very easy.
Easily.
And then report back to the Board of Selectmen, because it would be them that would, because it's town-owned property at this point, in a closure. Although that project is not a complete closure, because we only have 3 buildings. Complete closure would be if all of them would.
Build up.
But I will do that.
Thank you.
And that's a very good point, Kobe.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I think it's bad precedent to set allowing a fence illegally placed on town land.
Well, it wouldn't be illegal, because the selectmen are saying, yes, you can, they're giving them permission to do it. So it wouldn't be illegal.
Well, without the actual verbiage of the agreement, there are different types of easements. There are access easements, utility easements, grading easements. There's multiple kinds. I don't know what the case is here, but each specific easement has its specific language and reasons for it. The fence across the property line doesn't make any sense to me. If it didn't have enough room for fire access, then it shouldn't have been allowed. It shouldn't have been permitted. If that's the case now, then I don't know what. Did you find the word?
License agreement.
That's,
License agreement.
I just pulled up the email. It's called, they didn't give him an easement, they gave him a license agreement, because easement goes to town meeting. Town meeting has to vote on the easement, and they didn't want to wait to go to town meeting, so they made a license agreement, which they didn't have to go to town meeting for.
Right.
So it's a license agreement.
An easement also has to be, I believe, registered with the deeds. with the
Registry
of
deed,
Deeds.
yes, it does. You're correct. Okay, Toby, do you have any more feedback?
No?
Just that, Damon?
I would have to go look at it myself, but this would be access to the 4th side of the building. There's already access on 3 sides of it. Is that the case? The fence is the 4th
Behind,
side of the
yes.
building?
I believe where the landfill is. Have you gone down to the landfill?
Yeah, I know
That-
it's kind of where it is, but I didn't know, there should be access on 3 other sides of the building.
There is.
Right, so,
And the big
don't
boy can
think-
fit.
because it's sprinkled and
Mm-hmm.
the square footage of that building, you shouldn't need 4-sided access to it for the fire department. They may be a preference of theirs, but I don't think it's a code issue.
No, I think it was more a preference, safety.
Right. I think that decision was driven by the public safety. It wasn't driven by the developer.
No,
no.
It was
You're-
public
You're
safety.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Remember that very
Also,
clearly.
That's what I said, public safety.
is there official correspondence between the planning board and the fire chief, and then vice versa, back from the fire chief to the planning board?
Yes.
Yes.
In the tech review meetings, whenever we start a development plan review, all the departments get a plan, and then they have tech meetings that the fire department comes, the police department, the zoning officer, Board of Health, Conservation.
Everybody.
They all come in and have their feedback about that plan.
But this is beyond tech review, right? This is the comment, the problem, an issue that's come up after the fact?
No, it was brought up in the tech review.
Oh, okay.
And we gave them permission, we accepted the plan, and then it was brought to our attention that we didn't have the authority to do the easement on town land, that easement was on town land, so then.
License agreement.
The
License agreement.
Well, if they were saying an easement, and then it went in front of the Board of Selectmen, who gave them the license agreement.
And they reviewed that at the meeting the other night.
Yes. Nathan?
No, I was just
I'm sorry,
reading,
Toby.
reading a little
Back
bit
to
about-
Toby.
Just to be clear, because the way that I believe that this went was that we never made any decision on granting to them an easement or anything. When that was requested, we directed them to the Board of Selectmen to work that. That wasn't anything that the planning board took on its own to do.
Yeah,
That
you're
was something that
absolutely
we knew was in the auspice of the Board of Selectmen, and we directed the developer and the public safety to go to the Board of Selectmen.
I believe a Board of Selectmen came to us and said, Mr. de Betancourt actually came to the meeting and said, you gave him an easement on town property, you can't do that, and then it went to the Board of Selectmen. That's how we found out about the easement. We approved it, not knowing it was town land. We did not viciously approve, we did not know. A selectman came and said, you did this, you can't, it needs to go in front of the Board of Selectmen. And then it went in front of the Board of Selectmen.
And I believe they had it reviewed by town council too, because I think he wrote up those licensed agreements.
Yes.
Now, isn't this an issue that should have come up during site plan review?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it never came up in front of us, we did not know the town land issue. It's not that we, as a plan, was, oh yeah, throw it up, we didn't know.
But the planning board did review the site plans.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm still on Nathan.
Oh, I'm good. I mean, I was just reviewing, just a comment. I mean, it sounds like if what the Board of Selectmen granted was a license to use that license agreement, from what I'm reading, it sounds like they're, it's probably, it could be seen as a potentially temporary measure where it's like, the owner's sort of on notice that, they're on town land and town might not be upset about it, but in the short term, they're saying, don't worry, we'll give you this license for now, but they're typically revocable, and they don't give the person that receives the license a real interest in the property, unlike an easement. So it's like potentially less of a big deal for the town to grant it, whereas easement, it's like
Right.
you're giving them a permanent real interest in the
Exactly,
property.
exactly. And like I said, I just think if Johnny's climbing that fence and Johnny gets cut, loses a limb, gets hurt on that fence, and it's on town property, I think we then become,
Yeah, so that's still an issue, but I mean, potentially.
for me, that's my thought. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, I just think, that could be an issue.
Sure.
Okay.
Do I have a directive, or do you want to go back to the Board of Selectmen on this, or
Well, I
you want to
think-
leave it alone, or?
I think if, when you listen to the tape, you first need to go back and see if the fire department and
I'll do
Mr.
that.
Castleton, per Toby's request,
Yes, they will do that.
will they still be able to have access, because the whole issue
Right.
was the
Okay.
fire.
All
So
right.
you were gonna check with that.
Now, that's the first thing
Yeah.
I'll do, and I'll bring that back to you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Also, there was the question of, do they really need the access? Not only do they have it, but if
Still, it's up to the fire department's preference. If they want it, then
Yeah.
fine.
I'll put that down too, as a need, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
I think there was quite a lot of fire talk of when this was there, and I think they could do without it, but I think they felt more comfortable with it, was what I recall from
Right.
the plan review. And these are giant buildings that are entirely stick construction. They're sprinkled, but it's like they are all studs banded together.
They burn real nice.
Yeah, they burned real nice. So I think.
And it worked out. There was not one person that was no, absolutely not. Everybody, from the fire department to the developer to the Board of Selectmen, there was no, absolutely not, we don't want to do this, why would we do this? The only issue is now just the fence. That's the only really concern. But there really wasn't anybody that, they all worked together, I think, very compatibly to create that. Okay. Anything else on that? Can we move on to Asian? Asian Imperial on Electric Ave.
Well, Asian Imperial I should have brought the chain along with me. The fire chief does not want a gate because he does not want to have the time for manpower to get out of the vehicle, the engine, or whatever that they've taken to the so-called fire. He wants to be able to go through, which the chain allows, except the chain was not working too well, and people weren't recognizing it. So they're going to redo the chain as a double chain. They're going to put up signage, more signage, and some reflectors so that people will see that at night, because they've got the feeling that people start to go in there not realizing it's a closure. Okay? So that's what they're doing at this point. But the fire chief is very adamant about not wanting a solid gate there. Okay? So we'll see when they redo that, what it's
And again,
like.
the whole gate
So-
thing,
And if not, I suggest that then we have, because we did the development plan review, is why we're doing this work. But if it comes to a point of whether or not there should be the gate there, then it should go back to the zoning board of appeals, because they were the permit, and it was in their permit that it should be a gate.
okay.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, just one comment when I'm thinking about this and thinking about what I saw there. I don't mean to get, I know we're talking about fires and important stuff here, but, we do have a design bylaw now, and that plastic chain is an abomination.
Aesthetically.
Aesthetically, yeah, and I mean, maybe I've seen too many Bruce Willis movies, but can't these fire trucks like crash through if they put a little
Well,
wooden
there's
fence
been
there?
many,
Good question.
there's been many suggestions of remedies. So we have to go through this one more process.
Well, and, because I was going back and forth, because my memory, I was trying to remember that the restaurant wanted the right going out. And the Mass Highway said, fine. But, because I say just close the road down, rip it up, put parking spaces there with a guardrail, and you can't come in that way. But then I think it went to zoning board of appeal because they wanted to be able, if there's a car accident at the intersection, to have the traffic go up Electric and through the parking lot up to Mass Ave. So I don't know if that's now.
There are many, many suggestions, Joanne, before these people, so this is what they want to try first, and so that unless the zoning board of appeals stops them from doing that, we can't. We can only, work with the remedies.
Right? But
I guess she's missing my question.
yeah, to your point, Joanna, you're right. They wanted an alternate route to be able to get to Electric Ave if the intersection at Walmart was blocked. And they needed to get to another
Right.
portion of
Because
town.
I think the consumer is fine with the guardrail and making more parking and closing it off, and the only way you can get in there is on Electric Ave, in and out. But I think the town, the fire department and the town asked to do that, so because there's quite a few accidents at that intersection, that they want to be able to reroute, and if the fire truck needs to get in, they can reroute. So, and that was for Damon, because I know he,
Yeah, I realize that.
Okay.
Okay?
but that was all part of that. Because I think that the commercial owner would be just as happy putting up a guardrail and getting, 10 more parking spaces there.
Absolutely. But,
So,
okay.
Also,
Yes.
the ZBA did write an order of conditions with one of those conditions specifying a gate. So currently, they are not living up to the order of conditions specified by the ZBA permitting authority.
Well, I think the ZBA is working with the fire chief and the owner to come up with the resolution.
That's great, but my point is that it's legal town documentation saying that they're required to have a gate, and other people in the town are saying it's okay that you don't. Well, what does that say for order of conditions from any town board?
But that's up to the zoning board. That's not something the planning board?
Can they legally revise their order of conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suggest that they do that then at their earliest convenience.
Yeah.
If there's no gate to ever be expected, then
That's what they're all working on now.
Okay.
Is coming up with that solution. What is it going to be?
very good.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but there are so many interpretations of a gate that chain can be considered a gate, so they have to be specific of what they want on it.
And I know, I talked with
We
Don
can learn
Bowen,
from that,
the chair of the zoning board of appeals, and they are working with the three groups to come up with the right solution.
Good.
So, okay, Whalum Road,
Now, Toby brought this up last week, and
The
you're
40.
right, Toby, and I think this was scanned to you, yes, it was scanned to the board, and there was a request to go from 64 units to 80 units, because 64 is not economical for them. They originally asked for 120, and this is again under the zoning board of appeals. And Don Bowen called today and said he's happy to hear any input from any board that would like to put input, but that's what the request was for. That went from 120 down to 64 units, which they approved, and now they're asking for 80 to make it economically feasible. So if the board wants to respond on that, we can do that.
because we're already writing a letter about crosswalks, so in that, we can also touch base with this.
Okay, well, is the board willing to go to see the additional, I believe it's 16 units?
Well, we're gonna talk about that now.
Okay,
I was just saying, we were already writing the letter, because Toby brought up for this development, the crosswalks. So, and what is everybody's thoughts on going from, as Marion said, it was 120 down to 64, back to 80?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Which one's Lunenburg Village?
That's the Lorden project over by where.
Oh, okay, that's
40B.
by
40B.
McNally.
Yep,
Okay, okay,
that's by
gotcha, gotcha.
McNally. It borders Leominster.
So it's not economically feasible to build 64, but it is
He'll make money
80.
saying-
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
profitable.
It's like, okay.
for the development, for him to be profitable. At six, he's saying, I don't know.
He's gotta make
saying
more
at
units.
64 units, it doesn't become economical feasible for him. He needs 80. And he was originally at 120. He came down to 64, so he's asking to go up to 80.
Then why'd he come down to 64 if it wasn't economically feasible?
I'd have no idea.
Well, I would hold him to 64 would be my opinion.
Now, what type of permit does he have? Is it a definitive?
40B.
Okay.
It's a 40B. In front of the zoning board of appeals. It's not in front of us.
Not even
That's
us.
not in front of us,
It's
but
it's if we
they're looking
wanted
for a
to give any
recommendation, right?
feedback, right, if you want to give any feedback to the zoning board of appeals about the 64 to 80, they would more than welcome the feedback, but this is a decision we're making. It's just if anybody wants to give them feedback.
My feedback is 64.
Okay. Do you have a reasoning behind that, or just go with the 64?
Well, that's what we agreed on, and
Okay.
there's a reason that we wanted less, and there's a reason we came to that number. So,
Who's we in that? 'Cause
Well,
I don't
the
even know.
town, I mean.
Town, yeah, okay.
The ZBA.
The ZBA, gotcha. I'd kind of like to see, I looked at it, I think I looked at the right thing, there was in the action email list, there was a couple different, does anyone have just
Marion
something,
has
a
it.
copy of the plan, the before and the after plan, the 64 versus the,
No, I'll get to the plans under the action. The only thing I have is a letter.
didn't you
Don
send us
Full.
those though?
Pardon?
Did you send us those? I just want to make sure I was
What,
understood.
the plans?
The plans,
Well,
yeah.
That'll be under the next topic.
For this project?
No, it'll include, we will not get 40B plans. We can ask for a small ones, and I have no problem doing that.
I thought you said you scanned something for
I-
this.
For Whalum, yes, I scanned a letter to you guys.
Oh, okay.
I thought you had also scanned the plans.
Did I scan a plan along with it?
I believe there was a plan scanned.
Let me see if I
I
can.
tell you, Toby, when I get through with that pile, I'd have to spend another hour going through to catalog it.
Okay.
yeah, I thought that was a
I
plan.
guess, I mean, I wouldn't, before I had an opinion, I guess I'd want to see, I mean, I don't know what the town's prior reasoning was for 64 versus 80. I don't know what the impact of the plan.
Well, remember, we deal with 40Bs differently than we deal with,
Right, so I mean, it was, probably wasn't the planning board.
No.
I don't know who would have been, if the ZBA negotiated.
I think I got it from Lisa, because she is the secretary to that. So if you don't have it, let me know, and I'll scan it
Yeah,
again.
it was the ZBA.
So I guess, for example, I mean, what percentage, I mean, I don't know enough about the property, like, maybe this is a good spot to add some density, maybe this is adding units that are going against our affordable unit count that we need to, get up to 10% on. So
When are they going in front of the ZBA, Marion, do you know?
They're in front of them now. They're debating that now.
So I guess the way that part of me looks at this, Nathan, is one, is it's a 40B project, and if I'm not mistaken, they need to have 25% of their project has to be affordable.
Right.
So what we're essentially going to gain is another 4 units of affordable housing, but then he's going to gain 12 units of market rate housing.
Yeah.
So I know for him, there's an economics there, but from a town's perspective, I don't know that there's a viable economic benefit for the community to do that.
It puts an increased load on the schools, on the police department that's on the very edge of town, the fire department.
Well, I would argue with that being the very edge of town now. It's like becoming the most densely populated pole.
Still, it's not exactly next to the police department, and then when there is something, they're running across town to get there.
Yeah, but they're going to need, at least now they're running across town to the same place.
That's not. Okay. I don't think there was a plan with it. I think it was just the letter.
Look, go ahead, Nathan, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. So I guess no, that's okay. We were having a discussion, a good one. I appreciate, yes, it does add cost, but in terms of, I guess there is some progress towards our cap on affordable housing, or our count. And, it's higher density development in an area that has decent transportation infrastructure, and is, I think, is this development going to be, they're probably on the sewer, aren't they?
I think that's all Seward, yes.
Yep.
So, yeah, school's always an issue whenever you add residential housing, but where if you add it like out in, what was it, Howard Street or whatever, there you're dealing with you're dealing with school, you're dealing with busing costs, you're dealing with,
Well, adding 16 down there isn't going to stop 16 from Howard Street. It's just an extra 16.
Right. Well, and I think right now, and I could be mistaken, Nathan, because you're on the school committee, but isn't the school committee, when they're looking at these new schools and the numbers, they have that project included they have O'Brien, Lorden, Tri-Town full build-out, because that was part of the action thing, is where you had to, what was your on-the-books planning development when they were coming up with these numbers? And I think it's very close. I think the school numbers were very, very close in the meeting I was at, and there was concern about that they weren't giving enough for all the development going on.
yeah, I think they tried to project as best they can. I think that's always,
Because at that meeting, someone brought up that they don't feel the number was strong enough with all the development. So to go another 20, that could impact that number.
Gotcha.
So you might want to just bring that to your school committee too.
That there might
Because I
be
know
a
there was-
larger unit
yeah.
count there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to write something? Do we want to go drive around and look at it?
I would leave this in the ZBA's discretion, because if I understand 40Bs right, they still have to provide a pro forma and all those types of things that give evidence relative to that, so I would let that go. I just, I understand what they're doing, but I'll let the ZBA make that decision.
Just one more other thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just felt that it would be at least something that we should have a conversation about. I really would prefer to see it stay as is, but I'll leave that to the ZBA.
Yeah, those are good points. The other thing I'm thinking about here is, if we want a burgeoning commercial development, you got Summer Street right down the end from there. You got a potential commercial project coming across from Whalum. To support those businesses, you need people that have needs that those businesses can meet. And so if we're gonna, like I said, if we're gonna have some additional density, there might be reasons why it's a bad idea to do so. I'm just saying, I personally wouldn't be ready to advise the ZBA against it, because it seems like there's some competing pressures in terms of reasons why we might want the additional unit count, and reasons why it might not be a great thing.
While I would hope that a development would stimulate some commercial growth, we haven't seen it yet, so.
Okay.
Damon?
It's the ZBA's field anyways, and doesn't really matter what we say, I suppose.
Okay. Well, and we could always put, because we're writing about the crosswalks, and we understand that they're in front of you, for the 64 units, and they want to go up to 80, while, of course, we all want to support the 64, but we'll entrust you to make the best decision. Because of course, we all would like to see it 64, but, we trust that the ZBA will, based on what they need to do, make that right decision. Okay.
All right.
White Woods Phase 3, White Street closure, verbal.
Yes. It's closure.
Okay, perfect. Medical marijuana.
I sent you a large packet of everything I could find on the marijuana. And there is a status that I can give you very quickly. Harvard is no action, still looking for guidance from state. Shirley's no action. Pepperell is minor addition to the bylaw. This was very smart. And namely, put decision on the Board of Selectmen through a bylaw.
We could do that.
Townsend,
Let's pass the buck.
board's consensus that Townsend was not a likely place, so they're looking for a moratorium. And Westminster has a moratorium for 1 year, and Littleton has a moratorium for 1 year. And a lot of the information they used, these communities used, are the same ones that I sent to you. So I don't see them, racing down the street to try to either stop or put one in.
Did you send us a copy of the law as it stands, as far as,
I copied
law.
it. What I sent you was this.
There's I went over that today. There's a couple PowerPoints. There's a brief from our legal counsel. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple things I didn't have a chance to read.
There was a conference.
The one PowerPoint, Marion, just if you could, maybe that one didn't come out clear at all. Like,
Would you like another one of those?
if you could just send us the if you have an electronic version, just don't scan it, just send us the deck, because I couldn't read that one. The other one, was pretty useful. I mean, I learned a lot about the law.
This one I thought, the model medical marijuana moratorium. They sent us a model if they want to go in that direction.
And I don't know if we want to put a more, go ahead, Toby, you've
That's what I
been,
was just going to say, what is the mechanism to institute
Right.
the 1-year moratorium? 'Cause
And then work
if
with the-
nothing else, if we haven't learned anything, if we have an opportunity to put a moratorium on while we do our homework, would be worthwhile.
right.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say, is put a moratorium on for a year, meet with the Board of Selectmen, meet with other town departments, get their feedback, and then have that year to come up with a concise plan around the marijuana clinics.
It's actually a bylaw that we can put on at the fall
fall
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, and I've read it several times, Toby, and it just seems like it would fit the bill, so we could use it as a model.
Anything to protect ourselves in the interim would
Okay,
be
so
greatly appreciated.
What I'm gonna do.
So I would make a motion that we,
Gotta have that back, Joanne.
oh, sorry, I was playing with it, that we are going to put the year moratorium on the medical marijuana, and we'll take that year to meet with the other departments and come up with a solid plan for that.
I have further question, comment.
Yes.
Now, taking advantage of the selectmen being here, I'd like to mention again to the board and ask question, has it been looked at, the fact that it's state approved, but it's still federally not allowed? I mean, are we getting our town into trouble by passing laws that are against the...
Honestly, it's not it's not something that the board has talked about. The only discussion that the board has had was basically an overview of your discussion at your previous meeting, but we have not discussed it as a board. But as Marion, the planning director, just said, I think this was a state act, it wasn't a local act.
As soon as we start making a bylaw, it will be a local act as well.
What the state allows, Matthew, is if you don't want it and want time to think about it or so forth, you're out, is to put in a moratorium bylaw.
I understand what the state allows, but I also want to emphasize the fact that what the state is allowing the towns to do is something that the state is not allowed by the federal government to do.
Right, but allow is probably the wrong words here. The state is going to be requiring us to cite these types of projects, and they're giving us, they're allowing us to adopt a year moratorium, but after a year, the state of Massachusetts would now allow us to deny a project or adopt bylaws that would deny.
I'll check with council.
Okay. I mean, could we possibly have a point of contact from the town, contact with the federal government, aside from the state? I mean, just to,
We could go through one of our senators.
is
I hear you saying.
it a good idea? I mean,
Well, is it a good idea? We're going with what our legal counsel says. They're kind of the people we turn to for like navigating this stuff, and they're saying, here's what you got to do, basically, you know.
But I think what Matthew's saying, and I don't want to put words in Matthew's mouth, is that the state is saying, yes, go do these, but it's not endorsed by the federal government yet.
No, appeal it to the federal level. It'll be on CNN tomorrow.
Right. Well, we're putting on a year moratorium. That's what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a motion
so moved.
that we will create a bylaw for the fall town meeting to put a year moratorium on the marijuana clinics.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so there we go.
vote too.
Aye,
Okay, Madam Chair,
yes.
may I take a moment to explain the second half of this?
That would be fantastic.
And this is what I'm calling an action file. I was asked to look into that type of thing, and I checked with our town manager, and her action file is something that I'm not sure would have worked with us. And the selectman who is present might want to be more explicit, but a lot of information that she receives and like the list that I have here is put into a folder, and that the board members go in and read it. And if they have a question or they want something put on the agenda, they make that request. Am I correct? Okay. That didn't seem to me that it would be feasible with this board going in. So what I did is sit down and worked with my assistant, and we went through a whole lot of things, and we came up with putting an action file on the agenda. This does not mean we discuss all these things. This means that this has been brought up by you as members of the board, or came across my desk, and any one of these you want to discuss, you discuss, and the rest of it, you don't. Now, you got a lot of information that we sent to you, we scanned to you. For example, Nathan turned in part of his committee meeting report, and I scanned that to you so that every member had it. The same with Matthew. We have a couple of things, there was a North County newsletter. I don't want to go down through all of them because it'd be a waste of time. But if anybody
So
wants
does
to...
anybody have any questions on the right-hand side under the action file? Anything on any of those?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Bakasa.
I see that there's a reference here to 35 Leominster Road Building Official Status Letter.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that is, please?
Yes, and I should have it in here. Where are you?
35 Leominster Road. Building official status letter.
Oh, and that's the one...
That's Mr. Brown's property.
Mr.
yes.
Brown.
The sawmill.
Yes, he
Yeah,
went
is
down and...
something on there?
Yeah, he went down and did an inspection, and he says that he's cleaned the place up a great deal, and he is going to continue to go down. There's been no more complaints. He has landscaped, flowered, and everything, and is now painting the house so that he's bringing the whole area up to a standard that seems to be acceptable.
Good.
Okay? I think the letter was scanned to you, but right now through all this mess, I want to bring up the fee schedule, if I may, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
I'm in the middle of investigating with our communities, our neighboring communities, whether they charge for extensions. Some do, some do not. It's like 50/50, but I'm waiting for phone calls back from about 4, so I'll have a full report for you the next time.
Okay. And that's what I was looking for when I said action files. Now, Matthew had brought up maybe looking with the whole Highfield Village, looking at charging for extensions, because there is administrative, but you do have to put a cost on it. You
Yeah.
can't just say $50.
No.
It's that, the administrative assistant that would do that gets $12 an hour. It actually takes her 40 minutes an hour to do A, B, and C, so we're charging you X amount of dollars. So we could, but that was an action item he asked you to look into.
That's what I'm...
That's what I was looking, right. So is that, you don't forget it, and he doesn't say, I know I asked you to do something, Marion, but I can't remember, because that's what we ran into at one of the meetings, so that's all I was looking for, but this is great as well.
Okay.
It'll serve the same purpose.
I think so,
As
too.
long as we know what it is.
Okay, there was one other one that I wanted to bring forth to you, and that was all. This is the selectmen's approve the power purchase agreement with NewGen, and if any of you haven't seen it,
That's the news article.
okay. Now, there's one more that I wanted to
Would it be easier to look at my list?
yes, because mine is, it's just compound-related here.
My list is right here.
We were looking up the fee schedule, but we were also, excuse me, oh, it was the marijuana that I did a survey on. Okay, so that's where, oh, the plans, that's what it is. We have letters out to every developer that we've had for the last 5 years, I believe. And we're running into some snags, but we just keep after it, and we are cooperating. They are cooperating. So I have some of them in. I'm intending to...
Oh, for the PDFs?
Yes.
The PDFs that we requested on all the plans that are in front of us? Okay.
So by the next meeting, I should have all of them ready for you.
Wonderful. That would be great. Okay. Anything else under action file? Meeting schedule. Our next meeting is August 12th and August 26th. Do those work for everybody? Will we have a quorum, no vacation conflicts?
What's Labor
I
Day?
may not be here on the 26th.
Is that the Labor Day weekend?
I have no idea. I
think Labor Day weekend
Is the following one? Yeah, it's the following one. Because I'm away in Maine. It's the following one.
I'm not sure what my vacation schedule is yet.
Okay. August 26th is not Labor Day. Labor Day is September 2nd. And I'll be in Maine, yeah. 'Cause I
We
got
won't
married
have a
that
meeting
day.
that night anyway.
No.
So we will have Mr. Osfield
We'll still
in
have a quorum with you.
on the 12th. Nathan, would you let me know when your vacation is so we can be sure we have a quorum?
Yes, Marion. I
Anybody
absolutely
who is going to be absent in that schedule, please let me know.
Yeah, I should be here, and so that,
Okay.
I think everybody else was fine. Members issue the PDF you just updated us on? Mm-hmm. That you updated us on. Board comments?
Any more?
Oh, I have comments, yes.
Yes, bring them on.
Yes, we were asked to bring in references and suggestions from other town bylaws and regulations and whatnot. City of Gardner, their open space and recreation plan. It has a great intro. It's a statement from Michael Crichton's State of Fear, Author's Message 2004. I don't really want to read it, but I'd be happy to share it with the board. Also, GIS is coming to a question. Do we actually have a GIS?
Yes, through the assessor's office, I believe.
The CSA?
I don't know, I'd have to check it out.
Did Marion, do you remember that link that Marion forwarded you that I sent about the bush on the corner of...
Yeah,
Lancaster
that
and
was like a
Goodrich?
Google Earth.
No, that was actually, that's Esri-based thing specifically for the town of Lunenburg from the town of Lunenburg's old website. I think it's provided by MRPC.
Yeah.
I can, do you have that link? Or maybe you can
It's actually, it's right on the
Didn't I
assessor's
send
page
it
now.
with your,
It's on-
Is
your
it?
stuff,
Okay, cool.
Nathan?
What's that?
Didn't I send it with your stuff?
Yeah, you probably sent it with that. And Damon says it's actually on the, I could never find it
If you
before.
go to the
I had to go to
assessor's
the old
tab, you
Lunenburg
scroll
page.
down, it says online maps. and send you to it.
So check that out and see if how much of what you're looking for that has. It may be, like, depending on what you want, it may not have all the layers you're looking
Well,
for.
I've actually found what I was looking for. I don't know exactly what it was, but for the town of Hubbardston, the state had paid for geographic GIS system to be created in 2009 by a private company, Cartographic Associates Incorporated, out of
That's the
Littleton, New
company
Hampshire.
we use for our town maps.
All right, well, the state paid for it to be created, and it's available. The town of Harvard has an 8-page document tutorial using Harvard GIS. You can basically replace Harvard with Lunenburg, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, ours is pretty good if you check it out. It's better than some of the other towns that I've seen with GIS pages.
Okay. Is it the CAI?
Yeah, I think so.
What is wrong with these?
Yeah.
He's making, I believe he's making recommendations.
And I think the state pays for ours as well, through MRPC.
Yeah, it was paid for, but I also, one of my colleagues at work, he's been on the selectman of his town for 7 years. He works for another town as the town surveyor. That town that he works for pays $3,000 annual to this company for annual updates to that, and the company does it. There's no MRPC, there's no review engineer, there's nothing. It's straight deal.
We do
between-
that too. That company, Marion said, does the maps, and Paul is telling you that they subscribe to the same thing.
Well,
They
then
pay
why when
$3,000.
people ask about GIS, aren't they provided with the link to the?
Well, it's on the assessor's website.
No, the
we can make it
assessor's
more
website
prominent.
You
references.
can make it more prominent,
The assessor's
We
website
can look.
references some form. It's a box with map parcel block that you enter in
Should
data.
be one for online maps.
I'll request that we make it more prominent on the website and probably the planning, or the Board of Selectmen's website. Okay.
But a lot of
but in
this,
the first quote you gave us, you're making a recommendation to add that to the open space bylaw, correct?
no.
No.
That's an example of,
Our bylaw, open space bylaw, we are working to, go forward, but we're approved into 210, or 214, excuse me.
perhaps I should read the letter. Can I have that back, please?
And this only goes to 210.
That's, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to add that to the open space.
No.
You can't.
Nothing is more inherently political than our shared physical environment, and nothing is more ill-served by allegiance to a single political party. Precisely because the environment is shared, it cannot be managed by one faction according to its own economic or aesthetic preferences. Sooner or later, the opposing faction will take power, and previous policies will be reversed. State management of the environment requires recognition that all preferences have their place. Snowmobilers and fly fishermen, dirt bikers and hikers, developers and preservationists. These preferences are at odds, and their incompatibility cannot be avoided. By resolving incompatible goals is a true function of politics. It just struck me as a non-political sounding opening statement for an open space and recreation plan by a city. So,
Yeah, it's nice.
and I would like to distribute this as well. This is instructions.
Well, that I
Yep.
can't add.
Yeah, it's
I can't add this.
under department links on the Board of Assessors. It's just nondescriptly down the bottom in online maps. Would be the link.
Online maps?
Yeah.
Good, great, check that out. This is one RFP from the town of Drake at Mass. They were building a senior high school. They put this together to put out for bid,
Yeah?
just an example. This is from my company. I'm not sure that I should share it with the board, but I just
Okay.
wanted to.
Because I was going to say, if you want to share that, Nathan might want to bring that to the school committee, because
Yeah.
they're going to be writing one.
You know what? I will get back, I will ask my boss about it and get back to you on it.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not sure that we didn't prepare this, so it is public document. Yeah,
Okay.
public document, you're welcome to it.
So you want me to,
That was just an RFP that a town he worked on put together for a new school.
No, I'm sorry, that, the town put that together and submitted that, it was solicited.
And what is your purpose in you think it should go before the committee
No, I
that
was-
Nathan is serving on?
I
He was just sharing.
I was understood that you guys wanted me to bring in examples from other towns and how they do things. and-
Right.
Ah, okay.
So this town is building a new school. That was the RFP they put out, had someone create to put out for the new school.
Yes.
We're looking at, so we might be able to steal some data as we're putting together our RFP. So he's just sharing
It's
that.
quite dated, though.
Right. No, which is nice. I don't know that the part of my committee that's working on it has really expressed an interest in getting examples in RFPs right now. I mean, they've got what are the owners OPM they're working with, and they probably have their own templates and all that. But
Sure,
if you
no
want
problem.
me to, I mean, if you want me to give it to them, I can. But if it's up to you.
No, I was just coming back from a comment that I had asked about the town developing properties, and I believe it was Toby mentioned that we couldn't actually be developers or whatnot, but we could put together a request for proposals.
No, he didn't say that. He said, well, I don't think anyone said we couldn't. I think
just said
there were
we
some
weren't good
different
at it.
opinions expressed as to how advisable we felt that would be. I mean, towns doing RFPs for schools is pretty common. Towns doing RFPs for, towns our size doing RFPs for housing projects is like way less common, or, depends.
Well, we've got a sewer commission, but we don't have any sewage disposal.
Sure. Now that one is one you might get some. You mean like building our own? That's something that I think has some. There's some interest in on Board of Selectmen. So I don't. The message I hope wasn't like, don't submit RFPs. I think the specific context was, I don't think whether the town would want to entertain an RFP. My opinion, anyways, would be entirely dependent on the project. If it's something the town, I personally felt the town had legitimate business, managing the production of, then sure, I'd entertain that. If it was something else.
Well, I think Mass General Law dictates what the town has to put RFPs out for.
Right, they say what you have, if
Right.
you're going to build it, you have to put it out for,
Right.
but they don't tell you that, they don't say well, there might be some things they forbid you from getting involved in, but there's a lot of leeway too. I mean, if we wanted to build, if the town of Lunenburg wanted to build an amusement park, probably it could do it if it issued RFP. Would we want the town of Lunenburg to do it? Well, personally, I probably wouldn't, but that's, but maybe, someone could convince me. I guess it was like amazing idea, but.
Well, we're off track. Go ahead.
But yeah, okay, so I get the context that you're giving this is that, hey, towns do RFPs. Yeah, I don't, no disagreement. Yeah, we've done a lot of them in the last 10 years.
Okay.
That's Mike's letter.
Okay, we're done with that.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't want to go backwards.
No,
Okay.
I guess just coming back to my question earlier about how many officials do we have in the town? And we didn't really narrow it down. We've got 3 inspectors, right?
Yes.
We've got Mr. Rodkins, and we've got Ms. Benson.
Mm-hmm.
We've got fire and chief, right? Police and fire.
Mm-hmm.
What other,
Department heads, there's
Well,
the planning, there's conservation, there's sewer, Barbara at the sewer, there's Jack Rodakins, there's the fire chief, police chief.
What, don't you
There's the
count, are
town.
you counting, excuse me,
Go ahead.
well, the question that I have, Madam Chairman, is it me counting the boards, the elected boards, are you,
no, I'm just looking for some technical guidance in the town's actions. I don't see that there is any.
And technical guidance by whom? Like engineering, planning, surveying? Yes, we
Yes.
don't have head count for that in the town of Lunenburg. We have a planning director. I don't want to take away from Marion.
we also use third-party engineer reviewers, but licensed reviewers, and we also will call on town council, and there's a very broad scope of expertise in Copeland and Page.
Right, but he's done.
And then also, we will hire, like MRPC, and we have hired private planners in the past. I know the Sewer Commission has hired different engineering firms for their works, as did the conservation. So we do have it by individual
No, we
department.
don't. We don't have a surveyor. We don't have an
Not a
engineer.
surveyor. No, excuse me, I was just trying to, yes, I,
Thank you. We don't have engineers, we don't have sewers, each department and the planning board, when we need to have a peer review engineer, the developer pays for it, and if we have questions, we go to that peer engineer. We don't have one on town payroll that we can call and say, hey, we have a quick question. We don't have a surveyor. We just financially, we don't have
But our rules
administrative.
and regulations require developers to have PE stamps, surveyor stamps, architect stamps, landscape architect stamps.
Yes.
And the town creates all these regulations and bylaws, but there's no such thing behind that creation.
yes, there is.
Well, there's legal input and there's engineering input.
But
We create the bylaws. We, as a planning board, would create a zoning bylaw, whatever bylaw we want through, just now, she pulled off the moratoriums that other towns have put in, the state has put in. We're going to utilize that. We are going to look at it as a board. We'll say, yeah, we like that moratorium. We might add a couple things, bring it by legal counsel, and then we bring it to the town and implement that bylaw.
Okay?
So if we were drafting a technical bylaw that required, that was specific to Lunenburg, so we couldn't use our first thing would probably be to use a template, because a lot of these things that are standard across the state, we'd use something standard. But if we had to create our own technical bylaw that dealt with complex engineering stuff, we would probably have to, request
in.
the selectmen to fund us the money so that we could bring in the expertise we needed to craft that bylaw appropriately.
Like last year, we had a solar bylaw, and we spent months creating a new solar bylaw. And we got input from other community, their bylaws, what they had in there, what the state. Now we're saying a good idea is to put in there. We worked with the residents, we worked with legal counsel, and we spent months creating that bylaw.
Okay.
I'm trying, Matthew, I'm trying to understand what it is that you're really looking for, because I'm not really clear. Are you looking for roles and responsibilities of the different functions within the town? Are you looking for an organizational chart that tells you who does what in the town? So I'm not clear what it is that you're driving for.
Both of those would be great.
Okay, so one of the places that you can go to is go to our website and look at the town charter. That kind of clearly articulates to a certain degree the duties and responsibilities of the different boards and functions.
I read that this weekend.
Okay, it doesn't go into the detail of all the other mass chapters and laws and stuff that are that those bodies are involved with, but it'll give you a general sense of what our roles and responsibilities are. As far as an organizational chart, I have to assume there's one, but I wouldn't know where to go to look for one. It's probably on the website. Town manager would have one. I don't know if it's posted on the website or not, but, so there are places to get it, but I guess you'd have to give me a clearer of idea of what you're looking for. I think the charter's one, and we could perhaps point you in the direction for the other pieces.
Okay, yeah. Well, in reading chapter 40, chapter 41 is the planning board, right? So the chapter before that had inclusion of a board of survey and other things that as I read the wording, it was a town population less than 10,000, they were options, but once the towns reach 10,000 or greater, they're required by the state.
Matt,
Those are things, I think you could go look at those things. I think when we did the sewer commission, there are certain sections of Mass General Law gives you, I think there were variations of how you could establish your sewer committee, if I remember correctly. So some things are applicable, some things aren't applicable, and I think we've only delved into those ones that we've needed to as we've developed these different things. Like for the sewer committee, I think it was a while that there was a conversation of how we were going to put the sewer commission together, under what ground rules that was going to work. That was quite a while ago, so I can't remember the details behind it, but I know there was conversations about how that would go, so.
Okay.
Right, and if you come across something that you see that over 10,000 people, you should have, what was it?
Board of Surveyors.
Okay, so then you might want to email Kerry and say, the town manager, I was looking at this says, because that's not something the planning board would institute. We could give Kerry the feedback that says, hey, we found this is something, and she would write back, yay, nay, we don't have the money, whatever, but that's not something the planning board, we could only reach out and say, we found this.
It actually has become assigned duty of the planning board in 1937.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It actually was assigned a duty of the planning board in 1937.
I think some of these questions that you have, if I may, Madam Chairman, should be answered through the town manager to a legal response
Okay.
of whether
good.
we need it. I don't think as a planning director, I can't advise this board that we could propose that this does. We know what we should be doing and how it is. It doesn't mean that changes can't be made or things be advanced. But I think some of the things that you're asking require a legal answer from our councils, and you'd have to go through the Board of Selectmen and the town manager for them.
Next up. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, because I don't know. And if you know something, by all means, you have every right to get an answer. Every right. And if it benefits the town with something, then by all means, we'd want to utilize that.
I would hope so.
Yes. I would too. All right. What other comments do you have, Matthew?
I'm good for now.
Toby?
Thank you.
I'm good.
Damon?
All set.
Nathan?
All set.
I am good. Any board comment? Come on up. Public comment. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Thank you, Paula Bertram, 312 Townsend Harbor Road. Just 2 points I want to hit on. The question came up about the assessors and GIS. We do have a GIS system that is administered by the assessor's office, and I know I was the chairman of the Computer Advisory Committee for about 15 years ago, and there was an effort made by the Computer Advisory Committee at that time to deploy the GIS system to the land use departments, and I don't know that ever came to fruition, but there was actually training held at the high school to try to teach the other town departments about the GIS system, and Harold Scheid ran that. So we do have that capability, so if there's an interest in expanding it, I would recommend that you talk to the IT people. But we do have a GIS system that I know that the sewer department is using, as well as the assessor's office. And we do pay Cartographics a fee annually to support that system.
Oh.
Yes, we do. So I would recommend you check with Harold Scheid on that if you have specific questions.
Very good.
The other issue I wanted to bring up was something that came up during one of your discussions about a MEPA filing, and it raised some questions in my mind. Under 310 CMR 11, if you are disturbing, there's certain thresholds. If you're disturbing more than 25 acres and creating more than 5 acres of impervious area, it may trigger a MEPA filing. It's going to trigger either an EIR, an ENF, or a MEPA filing. And I just don't know where you guys stand with when you get submittals for these sizable projects. There's 2 different thresholds. There's a 25-acre threshold and a 50-acre threshold, and when that is required. And it raised a question in my mind sitting in the audience about the O'Brien project, and especially since this project's before conservation, I would question whether or not that was completed with the Environmental Protection Agency. But it's really the call of the Secretary of Environmental Affairs as to whether a full MEPA filing is required, which is, I believe, what was alluded to when you were talking about Highfield Estates. But it may be something that you guys want to look at. Again, it's 310 CMR 11 and how it plays into your rules and regulations. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Paul.
Okay. Anything else? I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion that we adjourn.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all. Great meeting.